I've seen a lot of change, been through a lot of pain. Some things are not the same as they were a year ago, but all will be okay. I move on each and every day. The past is where it stays, way back a year ago. I've changed for the better this time. I thought I would never be fine. I strive just to say I'm alright, and for the first time in a long time I'm alright. I've seen a lot of change, been through a lot of pain. Some things are not the same as they were a year ago, but all will be okay. I move on each and every day. The past is where it stays, way back a year ago. I'm not falling, I'll push all my chips and call all in. I'll bet on myself, you keep stalling. I hear destiny and it's calling. I'll keep my head up high through the downs and lows, and where I'll go in life, still nobody knows. But I'ma choose what's right and take what comes and goes, and ain't no one in life holding me back no more. I've seen a lot of change, been through a lot of pain. Some things are not the same as they were a year ago, but all will be okay. I move on each and every day. The past is where it stays, way back a year ago. Back a year ago. Step 1, wake up early, gonna rise with the sun. Step 2, get some good, some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you wanna be. Step 4, fuck everybody, just do your thing. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 Yo, set your affirmations, aspirations. I got shit to do, the aftermath of preparation. Good food, good mood, blood in circulation. One step at a time, yeah, that's how you make it. Set a goal you control and the steps you take them. I try to pick one thought, have some concentration, and if I make a mistake, it's called education. I try to do this every day, call it replication. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 So life ain't easy, yo, I think there's a reason though. Ups and downs, just like every different season, yo. Sometimes I'm high, other times I'm barely breathing, though. I always gotta fight and hide from the demons, yo. Negative thoughts are poison, they rot. Head full of flies, so here come the clouds. They'll never stop unless I can swap all the bad for the good in my head when I'm lost. Yeah, so I'ma fake it till I make it. Positive thoughts are overtaken, I got patience. One day at a time is how you operate a cadence. A flow, you grow,
You show yourself a foundation. Stay away from all the shit that causes temptation. I know that I like to do it cause it's sensation. I live my life in my head like a narration. Don't expect greatness, do my best, man, I'll take it. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 Wake up, today's gonna be a good day.
Wake up, really gon' rise with the sun. Step 2, get some good, some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you wanna be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
Good morning, guys. How is everybody? How the hello are you? Can you hear me okay this morning? Good morning, Carlotta. Good morning, Ghostface. Good morning, Janine and Richard. Good morning, Shenanigans. And I think that's it, guys. My kittens are 12 weeks and got homes, but one I kept him, so I'm back to chatting again. Aw, what does it look like, Carlotta? Oh my gosh, I love me some kittens. I think I don't really watch Tea and Sass, but I kind of she was in my timeline and I think she's getting a kitten. And speaking of, here comes one of ours. Hello, baby girl. You coming to see me? No? They love my office window. They just use me. They come in here and use me for my window. I should open it for them. Hold on. Okay, I have a little one homesick. The other night I got sick and I thought it was because I hadn't eaten, but I don't know, maybe it was a bug because now I have a little one home puking. So, good morning, Brandy. He's gray and got some bangle in him. What are you going to name him, Carlotta? Did you name him already? Let me know, guys, if the music is too loud because my headphones are adjustable, so I don't know what exactly at what volume you guys hear. Tiny Tim, I love it, Carlotta. I feel better. Actually, Shenanigans, I threw up the other night for like, I don't know, 10 minutes and then I was fine. And I really thought that it was my own fault, honestly, because I'm diabetic and I was busy on the computer doing intros and outros and all kinds of stuff for the channel. And I just forgot to eat. So it was like probably 6:30 in the evening before I realized I hadn't eaten all day. And she's missed so much school this year, you guys. It's been ridiculous. Good morning, Grateful Life. I wanted to play. We're gonna do the second half of. Well, actually, I just realized, guys, there's 3 parts to the Summer Wells thing, and so we're gonna watch part 2 today. I'm glad that there's 3. I'm hoping that the third one was a little bit more updated. But first, I wanted to go over. I found this case. that just came out. Remains of Georgia woman identified, confirmed as 1977 victim of serial killer linked to 93 murders. Yeah, I really do need to shenanigans. It was dumb. It was stupid. Good morning, Sassy. Happy Friday. Okay. The remains of a Georgia woman killed 46 years ago were identified and confirmed as a victim of Samuel Little, known as the most prolific serial killer in U.S. history. Yvonne Pless was about 20 when Little killed her in 1977, according to a news release from the Bibb County Sheriff's Office and the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council. She had been dubbed Macon Jane Doe by the Telegraph newspaper in the city. Little, who passed in December 2020, confessed in 2018 to killing 2 women, prompting Georgia investigators to travel to Texas in 2019 to interview him. They were able to confirm that his confessions matched the unsolved Macon case. They were able to notify a remaining family member of the other woman, Fredonia Smith, who was red-rummed in 1982. But Pless's remains hadn't been identified, so her family was not known. Last year, investigators used forensic genetic genealogy to identify Pless's remains and then identified a relative who connected with them with her remaining family. By the time of his death at nearly 80 years old, Little had confessed to killing 93 people between 1970 and 2005, so 35 years he was on a spree. Most of the slayings took place in Florida and Southern California. Georgia authorities say 8 of his victims were Georgia residents, and the remains of a Tennessee woman were also found in Georgia. Little, who was in and out of jail for decades for stealing, assault, drugs, and other crimes, for years denied killing anyone. It wasn't until he was questioned by Texas Ranger James Holland in 2018 about a killing it turned out he didn't commit that the details began to come out. Over about 700 hours of interviews, he gave details from scores of killings that only a murderer would know. He said he started killing in 1970 on New Year's Eve in Miami. It was like drugs, he told Holland. I came to like it. His last was in 2005, he said, in Tupelo, Mississippi. He also red-rummed people in Tennessee, Texas, Ohio, Kentucky, Nevada, Arkansas, and other states. Jeez. Little strangled most of his victims, usually soon after meeting them during chance encounters. Almost all of his victims were women, and he targeted people living on the edges of society, such as ladies of the night or drug addicts. They were people he believed wouldn't be looked for and wouldn't leave much evidence for police. How sad is that? He basically chose his victims by how they would be missed or not missed. He wasn't wrong. Police around the country initially classified many of the deaths as accidents, drug overdoses, or the result of unknown causes. Kentucky authorities finally caught up with him in 2012 after he was arrested on drug charges, and his DNA linked him to 3 California killings. Ugh. When he began recounting the other slayings, authorities were astounded at how much he remembered. His paintings, they said, indicated he had a photographic memory. Nothing he's ever said has been proven to be wrong or false. I was trying to see if this is his painting. Samuel, 79, confessed to strangling 93 victims between 1970 and 2005, triple the number of victims that Ted Bundy confessed. Before he died in 2020, Little answered questions from 60 Minutes on the phone for nearly an hour. He said there were probably innocent people in jail for some of his crimes. Ugh. Probably be numerous people who are been convicted and sent to penitentiary on my behalf, he said. I say, if I can help get somebody out of jail, God might smile a little bit more on me. Yeah, I don't think God's smiling on you. Little spoke mostly about his victims. They were broke and homeless, and they walked right into my spider web. Wow. Morning, AR. Good morning, Amy. Did I miss anybody else? Okay. Can you guys, 93 people. And what an idiot. He's like, oh, maybe if I get an innocent man out of jail, God will smile on me. God's not smile on you, jerk. I could say much worse words, but it's YouTube. How are you guys this morning, AR, Amy? The little one's homesick again, AR. Oh, that's right, your lollipop earrings. Okay, so we're going to move on to this is all of these links, guys, are in my description. This is, I'm going to put this one into the chat. This one right here is Candace's, Candace Wells, the mom. It is her new channel. I don't know. Remember that night that I got so sick, AR, when I was supposed to do the pickle taste test? I don't know. Maybe that was a bug because she's puking this morning. I'm over it. I'm so ready for school to end this year. We need a fresh start school year. Okay, Amy, great. Okay, so this one is a video that Candace put out yesterday, and it is called Part 1, It's About Summer.
It's about summer. It's not about all these freaking people fighting on YouTube. Because you know what? I'm standing up for summer and summer only. The only people that matter that I told the truth to was law enforcement, TBI, and all that. That's all that matters. How hard it would be for me not to go scoop her up in my arms and give her hugs and love on her.
How would you feel if you were the parent of a missing child, called every name under the sun, and you absolutely refuse to listen to what they have to say? How would you feel?
Y'all can hate on me, y'all can dislike me, but when the truth really comes out and it really happens, and when y'all decide to say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that, I'm not even gonna, you know what, I'm not gonna acknowledge them because of how much hate they have put into my heart.
And that's really sad. It's soul destroying.
It's been almost a year and a half since Summer Wells went missing from her home in the Beach Creek community of Hawkins County.
Candace don't know if she could handle that, and she broke down and cried on us the other night.
Scoop her up and tell her how sorry I am. And
I know. Deep breath, Candace.
I'm trying.
We have to prepare ourselves for a worst case scenario.
I just want to go back and get a screenshot of this, of their property.
I know. Deep breath, Candace.
I'm trying. I'm trying.
We have to prepare ourselves.
I did to break it. I did. Gosh. I don't want to know why. I just want it to work.
Case scenario. We could always hope for a good scenario, but it can't be good because no matter what situation she's in, she's lost her freedom. Even if she's alive, she's lost her freedom. She can't be seen in public. I mean, I don't really want to celebrate her birthday without her.
A time where he will wonder what she would be like as a 7-year-old.
She was definitely going to be tall, I'd say, because she was growing so fast. And I'm sure she would be the same person, and she didn't have no qualms about, taking on her brothers, that's for sure. She didn't hesitate to put them in their place real quick.
Don Wells says that even though there has not been any new leads in Summer's case recently, he's hopeful that by keeping her name in the
Deputies just knocked on our door and asked my wife for any tips on navigating our land and if we cared if they searched there. Looks like they are expanding the search area and that they still do not know her whereabouts.
news, there will continue to be some new information shared with police.
A girl so full of life and wonder, with the love for swinging and being outdoors yonder. Barefoot and carefree, she'd run and play, while her family watched her every day. Her 3 older brothers, protective and strong, watched as their sister danced along. But one day she vanished without a trace, leaving behind an empty space. Her parents and siblings, broken-hearted, search for answers, but their path is uncharted, wondering who have taken their little girl and wishing for answers to unfurl. She was a tomgirl with the princess's heart. Kissing fish and being silly was just her part. Her absence is felt in every way, and her family and friends pray for her safe return each day. May she be found and brought back home to the ones who love her and never let her roam. But until then, we hold on to hope and cherish the memories and love that they've spoke.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Wow, that's so beautiful.
I'm gonna go on
Yeah. And she wrote that with her heart, no doubt.
That was beautiful, Lean on Me.
That was beautiful, Lean on Me. She said it took her days to.
Why can't we just focus on the matter at hand, the most important matter at hand, which is finding her instead of attacking families? And I truly believe, guys, our justice system will take care of it. Like, whoever is responsible, you have to let our judicial system take care of it. That's what it's there for. Instead of putting energy into stalking the parents and, accusing them, do something that's going to help. Sorry, guys, I don't want to get copyrighted for that song. See, there are YouTubers, guys, that are doing it right and keeping her memory out there and her face out there. Oh my, it is my internet this morning. What the heck is going on with my internet? I only have 2 little bars. Sorry, guys. Morning, Diva.
It's about summer. It's not about all these freaking people fighting on YouTube.
What on earth is up with my... Oh, there. My bars are going up. Maybe we'll get it back.
It's about summer.
After we finish the deep dive into summer, you guys, I think I'm going to start with Brian Koberger, the one that the Idaho 4. I don't know if you guys ever heard that. So while we're waiting for this stupid thing to catch up, um, I don't know if any of you are real familiar with the case, but right after Summer disappeared, CPS came in and took their 3 boys. And we're going to watch a
She
short.
was a tomgirl with the princess's heart, kissing.
I was going to say I'm afraid to pause it. So they took the 3 boys. CPS took the 3 boys after Summer disappeared, and there's an update on that we're going to watch. Again, all of the links that I'm covering are in. I'm trying to really hard to get back into the habit of putting the links in the description. So everything that I have I'm showing today, the link will be in the description. So Candace's channel is in the description. There is a true crime channel, Michelle After Dark. I really like her. She's pretty much just about the facts, not going hard at the family or whatever. I'm sure she has her, her thoughts and opinions on it too, but she's more fact-based than opinion-based, I feel like. Morning, Lilith.
Fish and being silly was just her part. Her absence is.
Oh my goodness. All right. I'm going to try this other video. I don't know if it's the video or if it's my internet. So we'll try this one. So this one is the one. It is actually the original video came from the lab. That link is in the description, but it's Michelle After Dark that is covering it. Thank you, Brandy. And so she's covering and kind of going over the lab's video. But basically the gist of this is that Dawn confirms in this video that the boys are not being returned to them.
All right, y'all. We've got a weird lighting situation going on here, but I can't be bothered sorting it out, but it'll do. And you're perched precariously on the arm of my sofa. So if you fall off, well, you've not got far to fall. It's all right. Okay.
She also does, Michelle also does true crime, like she'll take her dogs walking, like in the country, beautiful scenery and stuff, and she'll just take her dogs walking and talk about true crime too. I like her.
Guys, this.
Okay. This is a text from Candace. Well, I spoke to the boys last night and they told me in the consoler that they don't want to come back home with me and Dawn, and that's what they are going to tell the judge. Can you imagine, you guys, hearing that from your kids, that they don't want to come home and be with, mom and dad?
Has really set the cat amongst the pigeons.
Are you on the road, Brandy?
Have you seen this? This was a live stream that Cathy the Friend did yesterday. Who's Cathy the Friend, I hear you say? It's a friend of Candace, the one who helped Candace a lot when Dom was in jail. And Candace recently has been horrible to Cathy and said that she's stolen Summer's jacket and this memory box, and well, it's at Cathy's. All Candace has got to do is pick it up. We've talked about this, right? So that's who Cathy is. She's coming online now and she's telling some truths, and honestly I believe Cathy. I don't think she's got a massive reason to lie. I mean, yeah, Candace accused her of stealing, but this text or message or whatever that Cathy shared has really set the cat amongst the pigeons. Well, I spoke to the boys last night, so this is Candace talking, and they told me and the counsellor that they don't want to come back home with me and Don, and that's what they're going to tell the judge. So people are saying that Cathy shouldn't have shared this information, and, well, she has. I thank Cathy for doing that. Every little bit of information that can be used, in my opinion, at this stage, that doesn't compromise Summer's investigation, I'm up for it. I want to see it. That's where I am, right? That's where I am. Now, Don went on the lab with Josh, and he's been on the lab's channel before. He knows Josh. He knows Josh's opinion about what he believes happened to Summer. Josh said right to Don's face in this live that he believes there was a terrible accident that was covered up. Hello. Come on then. Come on. Can you see her? You can't see her. She's off camera. She's here. There she is. What's up? What's up? She's a good girl. Okay, so he's confirmed that the boys are not coming back. He's confirmed it. So, yeah, I'm going to play you a few minutes of this. I'll leave a link to it in the description box. I'm going to comment throughout. Good work, Josh. Let me just turn my volume up, or else she's not going to hear a thing. She's licking my feet.
Her dog.
You don't want to lick my feet. Mm.
Well, I saw you. I saw on Candace's channel. I saw you. I mean, you do. You
Oh my
obviously
gosh,
been
I'm
doing it
so
for a long
jealous,
time.
Brandy.
You do great work, but
Yeah, but it's not enough money to do much of anything, though.
okay, I can understand that.
But the thing of it is where the boys are at. They're
Right. He's a drywaller. Now, that kind of trade in this country,
Morning, Bama.
if you're good at it and you work hard, you're going to make a decent living. And see what Cathy says, what others who know the world,
Especially where they are in Tennessee. Like I know we have family. One of my husband's cousins used to, I mean, he still does drywall here, but he used to do it like in Florida and California where it's nice all year round. And he did really, really well. Good morning, Dante. Thank you for coming in. Welcome.
is that Don has made good money, but Candace doesn't see it. And when he goes on his little trips,
No,
to
she's
Knoxville,
still missing.
that's where
She's still missing Diva, and I don't know if you came in before or after, but apparently the boys are not going to be returned to them either.
the money goes. So let's just cast the blame onto everyone else. I don't make enough money to give my boys a decent life. No, Don, it's
Yeah, that kind of, I can see, like, you know, when a lot of us are warped from YouTube. So when he said that, it did kind of sound like a cash grab, you know, like Michelle or Foodie or one of them. I don't know. I mean, Don is he's aware of the shenanigans that happen on YouTube. So I don't know. That kind of to me sounded cash grabbish, but
because you don't want to. But we're not here for that.
it is so sad, Dante.
These people got money. Well, I don't know how much money. I don't know a whole lot about them, but I know that they're in basketball, football. They're doing great. You know, yeah. I'm happy for them. I'm not mad.
Who would want to go?
I mean, I'm glad to hear that he's happy for him. He's not mad, but they could have put them in basketball and everything. They could have done those things for the kids. Their schools offer that stuff, and it's not that expensive to get your kids into sports when it's through the school.
Go back to Don Wells and his N-word, his drunken rants. Because if anything, right, even if Don, Candace, Grandma, had absolutely nothing to do
Good morning, Anna
with
Lynn.
Summer's
Happy Friday.
disappearance. Other than Don was at work and Candace wasn't watching her and Grandma was having a nap or whatever she was doing. Right? And they got nothing to do with Summer's disappearance. You cannot deny that we have seen multiple times what those boys and Summer would have been subjected to. Who would want to go back to that life?
Exactly, Dante. Yes, exactly. I mean, we don't know, at least I don't know what their drug of choice is, but we know that they are both drinkers. But all that stuff costs money, but they have a brand new car. If they can afford a brand new car, you can surely afford to put your kids into basketball.
That, kids love the parents, even if the parents are abusive. That sometimes, often even happens. But it's nearly 2 years. It'll be 2 years in July that the boys were taken. And we're going to hear exactly what Don said in the days after the boys were taken in a moment.
Yeah, I'm hurt in my heart. Yes. Yeah, but I'm happy that they're happy.
So it is. So the text is true.
Anna Lynn, this is a true crime channel. The lady that's up in the left, it's her channel. Michelle Goes Live. Not Michelle Goes Live, sorry, that's our train wreck. Michelle After Dark, I believe it's called. Michelle After Dark. And she's really good. I really like her. She seems to be fair.
I believe it is. Yeah. But, yeah.
Well, I am sorry to hear about that.
Well, it's okay. I mean, that's just the way,
Exactly,
that's
Dante.
the way it is. I'm just, me and Candace are happy for them. And we're just, we're going to do whatever is best for them.
And that's yeah.
Good morning,
that's good.
Hannibal.
That's good. So, Don going on WJHL a couple of months ago saying that the boys were kidnapped. I think we can put that one to bed because we know exactly what happened.
Oh my gosh, I
The
didn't know
story
you did
that
that.
came out was that Candace rang Child Protective Services
I've seen that one. I don't
because
know if I follow
Don
it, though.
had been
Thank
off
you,
on a
Dante.
bender
I was just
wherever
telling them
where,
about that.
and she rang them. This is just a story that came out, right? It backfired on her because she didn't realise that she didn't realise that she would also be drug tested. So they both tested positive for drugs. That's the story that came out. Now, it's not the initial story. The initial story was captured by Jays for Justice, 24th of July 2021. And this is on Jays for Justice. Fair use, all that stuff. Links in description. Go and listen to these. But this is what Don said to Jay.
This one is like almost 2 years old, Anna Lynn. She went missing, I believe it was June 15th of 2021. So it will be 2 years she's been missing next month.
Stopped posting on Facebook, so the rumor swirling around was that you had left town and you were MIA. So everybody was like, is Don around? Is Don around? Yeah. Well, I'm glad you stepped away from social media. I think that was the best thing for you.
I'm trying to get Candace to do the same thing because
she's still on there.
Yeah, so social media was the reason why the boys were taken.
The rumor is that they were
I didn't realize that.
Were they taken from you guys? Were they? Oh, no. Yesterday?
A couple days.
I didn't realize it was due to social media. So I told you guys on Wednesday. I know, AR. And I was really into the case in the beginning. But then when people on YouTube started getting so nuts about it and everything, I backed off because they were making it a circus. And it was no longer about Summer and finding Summer. It was more about building their YouTube channels and making money. And I feel like Summer got, forgotten in the whole thing. But So that's what they're talking about when they say that the boys were taken because of social media. Don in particular was all over social media. He was all over the true crime channels that were covering the case. And didn't always make him and Candace look very well. And then, like I said, they did a prank where Candace was like, hysterically crying, and they took Don, they arrested him, they're gonna send him back to Utah, blah, blah. Here it was all just a prank. Who's gonna be playing pranks like that in the midst of a investigation where your child is missing? So that was kind of weird. Good morning, Peter. You like pizza? I like pizza. I don't think he asked them to take the boys. Absolutely not. I don't believe that either, Dante.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Right now, with everybody attacking us and all this stuff going on, right now, it's probably better for them.
Was it for their safety? Like, from that?
No, there's more to it than that, but...
Uh-oh. Is it more in the case with...
These cops and things, and everywhere we go, they take pictures of us, and it's on and on and on. It's just never ending.
Yeah, were people still coming to the house? You cut out for a second there.
Anna, Lynn, do you heat it up or do you eat it cold?
Well, yeah, we had the cops come up there the other day. I wanted Candace to do another
right, Dante?
body test, but I told her unless it's TBI, don't do it.
So he's wandered off a little bit from the story. So all the ruckus that was going on with YouTubers, Don tells Josh. I've not heard this story before, but Don tells Josh that there were psychics down on his bottom property that were about to get into a gunfight, which I find hilarious. But Don blames the YouTubers, then he blames the police, and then he goes on to say what actually happened.
Do it because they're just trying to hem you in on something.
Is this the sheriff that wants her to do it?
I don't know for sure, but
Wow.
I mean, I'll cooperate fully with TBI.
Have you guys thought about getting an attorney?
Yeah, we have an attorney.
Oh, okay. What does he think she should do?
Do they? I don't think they did. Did they?
Does he think she should do it or no? Like he should be giving you guys advice, you know?
There's been talk.
I wouldn't do it unless it's,
Hold on.
unless it's TBI. I'm willing to work with them. They're more of a professional.
There has been talk about that. Diva, I mean, so far, like I said, no, I'm a Taurus, Amy. But I'm right on the cusp. I'm like the first day of Taurus. I just missed being an Aries. So there has been talk about like selling her. But again, we're 2 years into the case. The Wells have been, their phones have been taken by law enforcement and checked over. They've done lie detector tests, which there's some discrepancy whether or not they actually passed those tests. I believe Dawn passed, but Candace did not. But there's not really been anything more said about that. So anyways, my feeling is at this point, not to put the focus on Dawn and Candace, but to put the focus on Summer, because like I said, Dawn and Candace may be complete train wrecks, but that doesn't mean that they did something to their child. And because of the way this case has gone and everything, I just don't want to be the judge and jury and convict them. I would feel absolutely horrible if it ended up that they weren't involved. And like I said, so many channels literally have played judge and jury and just automatically, they just say as if it's fact that the parents did something to her. And we really don't know for sure. With their previous experience with CPS, I do not believe that they would. No, I don't either, Dante. I'm a Cancer, and I say, oh, I haven't tried that. Popcorn won't last long with me. I do what I call fridge chug. Just walk by and grab something or drink something while I'm busy all day. I do too, Dante. But I believe there was also talk that the Cold Case Foundation wanted to take it over. They wanted to do the Summerwells story too, but Dawn and Candace refused. So, I mean, that doesn't look the greatest either. And I will say, they may not want Cold Case Foundation to cover it because Chris McDonough was such an a-hole in the beginning of this case. I don't know if you watch him, Dante, but I don't care for Chris McDonough. And I do feel like he I don't feel like he handled it well when he covered it in the beginning. And so I can see where Candace and Dawn wouldn't want them involved for that reason. But again, any outlet that is going to get your child's picture out there, keep her in the media. That's the important thing, to keep the story going so that, it doesn't become a cold case.
I'm not going to go with some county trying to nail us for something we ain't done.
Yes, I
Right.
totally agree, Diva.
Right. Did she tell them that?
No, I don't tell them that at all. I mean, I'll let them know. Whatever, but it's just,
They don't want you to do one, though, just her.
No, just
Yeah, everybody's really pointing fingers at her. They really are.
Yeah, and they're all dead wrong.
Oh, that guy came and saw you guys, didn't he? Chris or whatever? Did he come to your house? Chris McDonough?
I don't know.
Dude, there's so much going on.
Yes, he did know.
He did
know. Yes, he did know.
Said they had the inside scoop with TBI and that they knew that I sold my daughter for drugs. And I flipped out. I believed that stuff. Like, I believed that.
Also, it was reported that he did try to sell, apparently he has an older daughter, and he did try to sell her at one point. So that's another reason why people speculate that.
I flipped out. I started drinking and everything else. And that's when I took their kids.
There you go. So people accused him and rang the cops that he sold his daughter for drugs. So he flipped out and he went to Knoxville drinking. Knoxville, Kentucky, wherever he went, right?
But see, Dante, I can understand why that is, because there have been so many channels that have reached out to them, as if they're going to help them. And then they come on their channel and they basically, accuse them and try them on, on their live or whatever. So I can kind of see why Candace is, afraid to trust anybody in the media. But again, like I said, the goal here should be to keep her story out there, to keep her name out there. And even if you don't like Chris McDonough, he's not the only one running Cold Case Foundation. So there's going to be many other detectives involved. So let them do it. If it's going to find your daughter, let them do it.
And this was the time when the TBI allegedly were trailing him and he gave cocaine.
I believe it has been proven he had, Amy, he did have alibis, quite a few alibis for him being at work. So I believe that has been proven. We haven't heard otherwise, but we don't know how much law enforcement is keeping to the chest, because especially in this case, because it has gotten to be such a train wreck at times. I'm sure that TBI, the FBI, whatever, none of them are probably sharing too much information anymore, because for them to build a case that, people need to stop coming online and destroying that case. And they have specifically asked YouTubers to, step back.
Away free, $2,000 worth to show the TBI that he didn't need money, even though drywalling doesn't make any
Yes,
money.
7.
But he didn't
Exactly,
need
Dante.
money. He didn't need to sell Summer for drugs. Okay, so that's why the boys were taken. Back to what he told Josh. Right, we're going to skip a bit because he said something very interesting at the end.
But it is, I think there is a possibility that Summer got mad because she asked the boys to go downstairs and play with toys with her, and they was too busy playing their games or whatever. There is the possibility she got mad.
See, that kind of upsets me that he said it that way. They're kids. Their responsibility is not to babysit. They are children. Their responsibility is on you and Candace.
You know, and stomp down the street saying nobody cares or something in her mind. I think that's
exactly, Diva. And
So
that's
she
what I'm saying.
stomped down
I
the
mean,
street.
and that's exactly my point. Even if they were arrested, until they're tried, they're not, they're not considered guilty. I know it can be extremely frustrating in our legal system, the amount of time that it takes to actually get the answers that we all want. But they are trying to build a case that is not going to come up, on appeal or be overturned or whatever, so they have to kind of keep their information close to the chest, or else, as we've seen, media, YouTube, everybody runs with it.
Great. So no one came up in the basement. No one came up on the hill. So there's now a possibility that Summer got mad. And she was feisty little girl, She got mad at her brothers, so that might be why her brothers said, it's not my fault. And then she...
Here's the thing, though, Dante. If she did, and I'm trying to hold my opinions close to the chest too, because I really don't want to come off as blaming Candace and Dawn. Because, like I said, you can be a crap person and still not have killed your daughter or, sold your daughter or whatever. So I'm trying to not just, play judge and jury here. But I don't believe that she walked off either. But if she had walked off, the terrain and everything there, she could have very easily gotten lost in the woods. And with the wild animal, I mean, it's not a good scenario. The wild animals there, it's a really, really rough, terrain. Good morning, Fish.
Stomped down the street. Right, so which street? Are we talking about her stomping down the driveway? Right, let's look at the map. Let's look at where Summer could have stomped. All right, let's do it. 110 Ben Hill Road. All right. Don't lose access to personalised maps. I don't want personalised maps. Just shut up. Right. Okay.
She cracked
110
me up.
Ben Hill Road. All right. So the dog trail is about, I don't know, here-ish. Driveway's here. Beach Creek Road's here. All right. So possibility she stomped down the street. So she's gonna stomp down the street by coming out of the
Dante, which
basement.
kind of makes me think that they must, I don't know. I mean, you're talking Candace and Dawn wouldn't even consider that she walked off. I mean, yeah, that to me is odd too, because I don't know. I mean, my kids, I'll say, yes, they had 20 plus dogs, and the dogs tracked her to the road, and then lost her scent. So the fact that they tracked her to the road and then lost her scent tells me that somebody has her. The issue, I think, is whether or not it's somebody that has her that Candace and Dawn know about, or whether it is somebody that they didn't know about. That's, I think, the question because if she was tracked to the road and then her scent just disappears, she had to have gotten into a vehicle.
Door, stomp, 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 stomp. She has to go all the way down here, all the way down here, and then down the drive, and then stomp down the hill. All right, so stomp
Right,
down,
Diva.
down the hill.
And even in the search, they couldn't utilize the community to help search for her, like most communities, would come together and everybody be searching. But law enforcement didn't want the help of the public because the terrain is so bad there. They were worried they would end up in another emergency situation having to rescue one of the volunteers that was searching. So they couldn't really utilize the community to help search. They did, however, ask the community, to check your sheds, your garages, any outbuildings you might have.
Road, which might explain why her brother saw her leave, and might explain why the first stories that came out were that Summer walked away from her home. That makes more sense.
Right, Dante. Very well put.
Or she could have gone down the cutting. This is shallower. Gone down the
right, Annalyn, because you're like, it's almost like purgatory. You're just sitting there waiting for some sort of answer. You can't even properly grieve because you don't know if she's still with us or not, if she will be returned or not, or found or not.
the cutting, where that's permanently, like the tree service have been working on it. So she stomped down there, stomped down to the creek. She could paddle through the creek and stomp down Beach Creek Road, which would explain why Candace went all the way down here and all the way down here and all the way down here. So is it that they actually knew that Summer had got mad? Maybe Candace knew
Dante,
that Summer was mad. Or this could be just another story. And Don did say it's just a possibility. All right.
She took off. That she got mad, and
if she did get mad, I could totally see a 5-year-old stomping off and doing precisely what they were told not to do so many times. If she was mad, it was like, a 5-year-old is not beyond being spiteful. Well, I'm going to go out and do this. I don't care if I'm not allowed. I mean, she's 5. You can't expect that a 5-year-old is always going to obey rules.
So she did walk away. No, even though she would never walk away. All right. So Josh went on to say he believed it was an accident, and Don denied that Candace would call the authorities if that had happened. Summer got mad and walked away. So Candace would have known that, surely, because if a little kid gets mad, you know they're mad, don't you? Like, they scream, they shout. They don't inwardly seethe, little kids, do they? They're not good at that. Did Candace get mad? Did everyone get mad? Did the boys get mad? Is this just another tall tale? Or could there be some truth in this? Let me know what you think in the comments below. As always, I've been Michelle. Hope you...
Okay, I really like her. Also, the fact that in the beginning, the boys said that they saw her walk out the door. How could they see her walk out the door? They were upstairs playing video games. She was down in the basement. So she would have had to walk out the basement door. The boys could not see the basement door from upstairs where they were playing video games. So that was kind of, a discrepancy in the whole thing too. Candace's story has never sat well with me. 5 minutes, helicopter mom. I don't find her being a helicopter mom. In fact, I had said Wednesday, I kind of feel like, okay, the thing with Candace and Hunter was odd. It was, especially being that she didn't speak to Allie anymore. She wasn't friends with Allie anymore. So it was kind of weird to me that she, would pick him up and everything. But if she had bought like the twisted tea, like if she hadn't got Hunter, she would have had to be on her toes watching Summer. Like, I kind of feel like that was the whole reasoning behind picking Hunter up, was so that Hunter could do the running after Summer. And she could just, sit, relax, have her twisted tea or whatever. Yeah, it totally is Annalyn. And I think too, you're licking someone, AR. Here, I have my pickle salt sitting right here, AR. Let me put some salt on there for you. She is fish. So, all right, let me see if I can finish this one before we go into the part 2 of Derek and Steph. We'll see if we can finish playing this one from Candace.
Felt in every way, and her family and friends pray for her safe return.
Oh, see, I broke it again. Don't go full screen,
Each
Danny.
day. May she be found and brought back home to the...
Yeah, and I do
ones who love
believe
her and never...
I do believe, Dante, that she was totally trying to, I do believe she was trying to cover certain things, like giving Hunter the twisted tea and giving him a vape. I think she was trying to hide certain things throughout the day, but I mean, they were silly things because they're not going to worry about you giving him a twisted tea when your little girl is missing. The police are going to focus on the bigger emergency, right? So I don't think that they were concerned at all about those things. I think that they came up because they were lied about.
Never let her roam. But until then, we hold on to hope and cherish the memories and love that they've...
Licking people this early in the morning.
Wow. Oh, that's beautiful.
Wow, that's so beautiful.
Yeah. And she wrote that with her heart, no doubt.
That was beautiful, lean on me.
That was beautiful, lean on me. She said it took her days to write. That's beautiful. Lean on me. Thank you, lean on me.
That's very beautiful.
Why can't we just be kind, y'all? Why can't we just be kind?
I'll tell you what, with this
There goes my mind racing.
with this connection on this video, it might be her connection. It might have something to do with her upload, because it wasn't doing that on the other video that we were watching. And they do live in a spotty Wi-Fi area. So I'm thinking maybe it's that. Maybe it's her, not us. Hopefully. But what I was going to say is, I don't know if I'll get a copyright claim for this music or not, because it's literally playing just a few seconds at a time. No, I'm not muted. Just the stupid, it's this connection. It's got to be her video.
Climb every mountain.
I do want to sing along to this song, though. Yeah, we might not be able to get through this, guys. I do have her link in the description if you want to go watch her video. I think that's the problem because we haven't been having problems with the other videos. So we are going to start. Hold on. I want to get this link. We're going to start the second part of Crime Weekly, which is Stephanie Harlowe and Derek Lavaseur. And there is a part 3, so we can watch part 3 on Monday.
My biggest fear is, you know, her being tormented or locked in a dungeon or basement or something, because she loved to be outside all the time. That was her, unfortunately, her, you know, her downfall. Me and Candace know for a fact that Summer was abducted.
Oh, Lilith, thank you for gifting a membership. Welcome, Dante. You are a big deal.
But that's unheard of.
Hawkins County Sheriff Ronnie Lawson says they have found no evidence Summer was abducted.
Because Summer loves me, man. Y'all don't fucking understand. Everybody thinks oh, poor Summer, poor Summer. Well, Summer loves her fucking daddy.
I know.
Thank you, Lilith, for gifting a membership to Brandy. Welcome, Brandy. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back.
We weren't exactly paying attention, and we don't know if they come in the basement and grabbed her, or if she stepped outside the basement and was walking to her swing or something. She loved to be outside all the time. That was her, unfortunately, her, you know, her downfall.
And we do have, Dante, I have a pickle taste testing coming up. My son sent me all pickle stuff for Mother's Day. So I have spicy, bold dill pickled almonds. I have pickle flavored cotton candy, pickled flavor sour balls, pickle flavor salt, and then something else is coming today. I think it might be cashews, pickle flavored cashews. So we're going to be doing a taste test for that. Oh, and remember I ordered the fan, the neck fan from Temu. I also ordered one from Amazon so that we can compare the quality of the two to see, you know, how good a quality the ones from Temu are. Did you? I love the pickle flavored chips. See, you'll fit right in here, Dante.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Crime Weekly. I'm Stephanie Harlowe.
And I'm Derek Lavaseur.
But before we dive in, let's have a word from the sponsor of today's video, GlassesUSA.com. By cutting out the middleman, GlassesUSA.com offers
Well, baby, it was mine. Oh, really? What brand, Lilith? Temu. My daughter corrects me all the time, AR. Temu. I say, how do I say it? Now I can't. Temu, I say.
your current glasses, and that helps you figure out what your prescription is. It's easy, it's free, and it takes under 10 minutes, so you can really get all of that boring administrative stuff out of the way quick and get to the fun part, which is trying on the glasses.
Those are
and
my
picking them
favorite,
out.
Lilith.
GlassesUSA.com offers over 9,000 styles of eyeglasses and sunglasses, including in-house.
Well, Dante, you know what you need to make? I bet everybody in chat could tell you what you need to make. You need to make some pickle soup. I know Clausen's are my favorite, Lilith. I'm surprised, maybe just because they were the minis. Do you usually buy the minis?
House brands like Amelia E. Right now, I am wearing the Amelia E. Veronique in a multicolor, so it's kind of like blue, baby pink, cute colors.
I love her
I love these
glasses.
frames. I think they're so much different than anything I've ever owned or worn before, but I really enjoy them. They're fun. And I also love these frames. These are the Amelia E. Jessica, and they
We really should put the pickle soup video link in the description every stream, you guys. The pickle soup recipe that I follow is from the Bear Pantry, and it is amazing. Whoops.
Are in beige and clear, so they're definitely a more neutral frame. I think I actually had these ones on last episode. GlassesUSA.com also has designer brands like Ray-Ban, Oakley, Armani, Gucci, and many more. And I am loving my new sunglasses. These are the Ray-Ban Ericas. They have a matte blue frame. They've become my new favorite sunglasses. I love them. And you can find every conceivable style and color of frame, as well as specialty glasses like sports glasses, safety glasses, and glasses for kids. And almost all pairs can be ordered with your prescription and blue light blocking coating if you spend a lot of time on the computer like I do and like Derek does. Derek, what kind of glasses do you have?
So right now I'm wearing the Revel Dans, but I've been informed these are sold out, so sorry you can't buy these. However, I do have a couple more pairs. These are the Revel Hendrys, very similar to the Revel Dans, but they have a little bit different of a frame here. You can probably tell, a little translucent, but they're nice. Change it up. And then finally, for those summer days, I got the Revel Slaters, obviously sunglasses, so when I go outside, I can stick with a similar frame, but obviously the proper lens when I'm out in the sun.
You can also take the quiz that GlassesUSA.com offers on their website. It only takes a minute and it will suggest the right pair of frames based on your face shape and needs. And best of all, a complete pair of eyeglasses or sunglasses starts at just $30. Basic prescription lenses are included with every frame, including premium brands like Ray-Ban and Oakley. And if you do not absolutely love your new pair of glasses, GlassesUSA.com offers free shipping and returns and a 100% money-back guarantee within 14 days of delivery, no questions asked. So if it's time for you to get a new pair of glasses, you've been putting it off because it feels like a chore, let GlassesUSA.com show you how fun, easy, and affordable getting new glasses can be.
That's right. So if you want to try GlassesUSA.com out today, just click the link in the description below. Give them a shot. We want to thank GlassesUSA.com for sponsoring this week's episode. Let's dive into the case.
So today we're diving into part 2 of the Summer Wells case. We have some interesting things to go over. I especially am looking forward to portions of interviews with Candace Bly and Don Wells that I want Derek to kind of watch and give me his opinion on what's going on, what they're saying, if they're behaving in a certain way, because a lot of people have looked at these interviews and thought that they saw some things that were odd. And so I kind of want a little confirmation, or I want to get his take on it. And, you know, we're kind of going to go into the background of the family members, specifically Summer's mother and father. And in the next episode, what we're going to focus on is the theory that Summer could have been abducted. And it's kind of hard to focus on that theory because, as we'll talk about multiple times in today's video, the TBI and local law enforcement say there's no evidence that Summer was abducted. They have no evidence that Summer was abducted. They say it over and over again, which kind of leads me to wonder, well, what do they think happened instead, right? Because then you have either the options that Summer wandered off on her own and she was far away enough by the time, you know, the cavalry came in that she didn't hear anybody calling for her, that she didn't see all these people looking for her and all these night vision airplanes and stuff didn't see her. Or the other option would be something happened to her at home. Whether it be an accident or on purpose, and there's things that happen that we don't know about, but I do think law enforcement knows enough to be able to say so, you know, convincingly over and over, we have no sign of an abduction. There's no evidence of an abduction.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And when we work these cases, when we talk about them, we obviously record, but then you spend the whole week thinking about it. You're writing notes, you're talking about it. And I can tell you, not only this case, but a lot of these cases, I lay up at night, especially right after we record, and I start doing this thing, which is why I'm an insomniac. I just start playing out scenarios, playing devil's advocate with myself, because I do, just like any human being, get caught up in like, well, if it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's a duck. And I know from my own personal cases and from researching cases online as an investigator, where when that happens, that's when investigators sometimes make a mistake and they get so focused on one particular theory that seems like the most logical, come to find out it was something completely different, which is why it was never solved by them. So I'm really fearful of that, and I try to avoid it. And I was going back and forth because I know what a lot of people think. I know what I was thinking after the first episode, but then I had questions for you. It was too late to call you, but I was asking.
It's never too late to call me, Derek. You know.
Well, I mean, it was like 3, 4 in the morning, but and I'm going to ask it now because I didn't ask you off camera, and I want intentionally. When I'm getting the layout of the house, I know if she comes out of that side door and she goes to the right? So her back is to the house. She comes out the basement door, goes to the right. That's going to wrap around the back of the house. And that's where you're going to see grandma's trailer and kind of a wooded area. I remember you mentioning something about a swing set. Is the swing set the same way where she would go to the right? Or would she go to the left more towards the driveway, the entrance driveway?
So it's not a swing set. It's just like a single swing hooked up to a tree. And it is right up. So if she leaves the basement door, she's going to go up and to the right.
It's nothing like what you would think, though, Annalyn. It's like a creamy soup. It's like a creamy soup. And then it's got like potatoes in it. I can't remember. I usually do either really small diced carrots, or I do like the carrot matchsticks because I don't like the big chunks of carrots in it. For me, basically, the broth is my favorite part.
And it goes up a hill to the front of the house where the main driveway portion would be, where the front door of the house is, where grandma's trailer is, where the swing would be. Yeah, that's where everything would be centrally located. She would have no reason to really go any other direction.
Okay, so I have to look it up on a map too, because I'm under the understanding that the side of the house that we were seeing in the last video, where like you come out the door, remember the door that we kept seeing in the video that they went into, which led to the living room? The way I was assuming that was the back of the house, because it felt like when they came out that side door, there was a driveway to the left. Maybe.
Yeah, I will say when the case started, I thought the way the house was set up was, I remember feeling like it was odd too. Like I thought the doors were reversed, the way the house sits on the property.
Maybe I'm wrong. Like if you came out of the house, the side door there, the driveway was to the left, and you go to the right to get back to grandma's trailer.
Okay, so what's at the front of this house then? What's at the front of this house? If that basement door is like considered the back door technically, right? Because it faces the woods, then what's at the front of the house?
Great question. It's a great question. But I remember you mentioning the swing set, and I was wondering, could that have been, or the swing, I should say, could the swing have been on the opposite side of the house where Candace and grandma was? That's what I was wondering. That would create an opportunity.
Okay, we both have the photo up right now. We can break it down.
Yeah, I mean, this photo really shed some light on it. I should have looked at it before we recorded, but I'm glad we're doing it while recording. If you're on YouTube, you're seeing the photo right now as we're talking. If you're not, just type in Summer Wells house on Google when you get a second. You'll see something from News Channel 5. Great photo, high definition. So the best way I can describe it for you, if you're not going to go look it up, imagine a cul-de-sac, but instead of it being multiple houses in that cul-de-sac, it's just their house right in the middle. And it was what Stephanie was saying. So the front of the house is the side that we've been seeing in both episodes, where the trailer is directly out the front door.
Oops.
And I can't see the swing, but I'm assuming the swing is out the front door as well, because they said in the front of the house. The back side of the house, which was in question, is actually the back side of the house, although the driveway is the cul-de-sac that I'm kind of describing, where the road literally circles their property and goes back out. So the reason I had brought it up was, could Summer have been on the swing, which is out of the view of, Candace and grandma? The answer to that question is no. And in fact, now seeing this photo, it would make me question more, what would be the purpose of Summer going the opposite direction of where Candace and grandma were, which was right at the trailer, dealing with the cactus plants, right? So she would have no reason to go that way whatsoever. I'm not there. I'm not physically able to kind of observe what could be in that wooded area, but without knowing anything further, I don't know what would be in.
AR and I, Annalyn, are huge into soups too.
In that direction, opposite of mom and grandma, that would draw Summer away from the house without telling mom.
And there really isn't anything that anybody can figure out. And that's kind of the point. You know, they keep.
Yeah.
Oh. Sorry. Totally my fault.
Oh, I have some candy. And Summer's like, oh, let me get that. And then she ran into the woods, or somebody just walked blatantly, brazenly onto the property, scooped her up, and walked back into the woods, down to the street, to a waiting car, and off you go.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at different angles right now. I'm glad you said that. I'm very confident if there is an offender, an abductor who comes on the property, they have to be on foot. You would hear, it's like a crushed gravel / sand / rock. You would hear that in the tires. I'm sure most of us have experienced it. There's no way that vehicle would pull onto that property and not be heard by someone if they were outside. And secondly, it's a circular driveway, so they would have to come around the side of their home, basically in reverse back out the circular driveway. It doesn't make sense. Could someone have been on foot? Yeah, that's out of the two scenarios, that's the more likely, but strongly recommend go look at the photos for yourself. It gives you a completely different perspective of what we're talking about. And once you see the photos.
See, that's what I think it would have been. I think it would have been, I could see somebody with that kind of cover, with the trees, the woods, the street, you know, all that stuff. I could see where somebody could on foot grab her, make their way to the road, and have somebody else up there sitting waiting.
Photos, you're probably going to understand where law enforcement is coming from, because this driveway is so big that you would expect to find some form of trace evidence. And when I say trace evidence, let's not just talk about fibers and blood and DNA. We're talking tire tracks or foot tracks, something that would suggest there was another person on that property in a footwear that wasn't identified to a pair of shoes in the house. With everybody working on this case, I can promise you they had the dental stone out and they were looking for impressions that may not fit the sneakers or boots of the owners of that property.
And once again, I want to be very clear when I say this is an isolated property. If you did not know it was there, you wouldn't just be wandering by, see a little girl playing outside and say, oh, a little girl playing outside, let me take her. This isn't really a crime of opportunity thing. This is.
Yeah, but Goral, like, they could have come up. I mean, she was only 5. So they could have very easily come up behind her, put their hand over her mouth and nose to stop her from screaming, you know.
This is somebody, if Summer was taken by somebody, they targeted her, they followed her, they knew where she lived, they knew who she was with at any given time, they knew when she would be alone.
Yeah, the no footprints though is huge. I agree. I'm not saying that's what happened to her. I'm just saying it could have happened because it's secluded there and, you know, nobody would notice. But they act like the dogs didn't create an uproar. I think the dogs probably did create an uproar, but if you have that many dogs, you're used to hearing the dogs. You may not be alerted that somebody's there, because if you have that many dogs on your property, you're used to hearing them in an uproar, because I'm sure they go off if there's an animal in the woods or whatever.
And they waited. They boded their time. Is that how you say it? Boded their time? They baited their time? I don't know, man. They waited until she was alone in that split second, just 2 minutes.
Okay, Dante,
says
no problem.
Candace. 2 minutes that Summer's alone. They came up and they took her without anybody noticing, without Summer yelling, without any of the 25 dogs barking and alerting somebody to this, if everything went kind of as it was saying. So it's very difficult. It's not like it's a neighborhood and some pedophile is driving by and sees a little girl playing and is like, oh, here's my chance. I'm just going to grab this little girl. You'd have to know Summer was there. You'd have to have known exactly where she lived. And that's what makes it a little bit more, I suppose, difficult to believe, and you'd think a little bit easier for law enforcement to solve.
Well, and because of I feel like too, because of what Candace and Dawn are into, I feel like there could be many sketchy people that Summer would know the face of, you know?
If she had been abducted, because they could just look in her general area, look in her circle. This isn't some stranger who just popped into town, took her and left, and you'll never see him again.
Yep. So we have another photo on the screen right now. If you're watching, John has it. It's a kind of a Google Maps view, more zoomed out than the previous photo.
Yes, Annalyn, like 28 dogs or something crazy.
Which really puts in perspective how secluded this property is. You can see the circular driveway that wraps around the house. Then there's like off that circular driveway, it goes up to the road, which I believe, if I'm reading it correct, it's Ben Hill Road, which leads out to Beach Creek Road. But in between that distance, it's a long ways away from that main road. And there's basically 2 or 3 properties right at the corner of Ben Hill Road and Beach Creek Road. And that's really it. And Summer would know this. Where's she going? And more importantly, why would someone come down that way on the off chance that this young girl is going to happen to be in an area where they can get in and get out without being detected? It's really hard to believe. I'll never say impossible, because obviously anything's possible, but looking at it from this scale.
That brings me back to what I said the other day. Being that we live in the country, I always think that, I mean, everybody always thinks you're safer in the country. But are you? Because there's not people around to notice things happening in the country. So I feel like, do you know what I'm saying? Like in town, if crimes are committed, you have people with Ring doorbell cameras. You have people that are out sitting on their porch, enjoying the weather, blah, blah, blah. In the country, you don't, I mean, you have that, but you don't see your neighbors. You know, I don't even, to be honest, I know my neighbor across the street and that's it. That's the only neighbor that we know. But there wouldn't, you know, you don't run into Ring doorbell cameras catching stuff on other people's property because the houses are so spaced out. You know, the cameras aren't reaching, the footage of the cameras aren't reaching to other houses.
It's really difficult to see why someone would be in that area, even possibly looking for someone or just passing by and seeing her. There's no reason to be down that way unless you live where Summer Wells lives, and that's not the case. Everyone who allegedly lived there, we're going to get into Dawn, obviously, was on that property.
Wait, so is this her property? Is this her house to the left on the map?
Yes, that's how I'm seeing it. So you got the little blue, the red like dot there. I think that's just because it's close as it gets, but down to the left-hand corner, if the map's still up right now, see the circular driveway, you see the house, and I think if you zoom in, you can see Grandma's trailer, just a little bit of it on the right there. I think that's the property. Because it's definitely not on the top in the middle of the screen where that red mark is. So don't pay attention to that. Sometimes Google Maps, when you type in an address, it'll get you close. I'm fairly confident that that circular driveway right there is in fact.
Dante, I'm interested. What are your thoughts on Jody Sue? I have not watched Jody Sue, but I think Jody Sue is another one that's in it for the clout and money, monetizing her channel, things like that.
Fact, that's Summer's home, and it is. As you can see the circle, you can see how it goes back out. There's a long driveway from the circle out to Ben Hill Road.
Where do you see the driveway?
If you look really close in the corner there, you can kind of see where that road connects.
Yep, bottom left-hand corner, right under the Ben Hill Road.
Yes, right there. That's where I'm seeing it. So it wraps around.
This is going to come in handy, actually, for help both of us understand, because they had a path that they believed she was taken that goes through the woods and then goes to the street. And I was kind of confused as to whether it was Ben Hill or Beach Creek that they had taken her to, or thought that they had taken her to. And this is going to actually help us because we have a video of the exact path from the house that somebody took of the house down through the woods and then to the street.
If you look really close in this picture as well, it almost looks like there's a body of water running right around there as well.
I get that, Annalyn. There are, though, you know, ways to be more protective. I mean, I will say we are not strict parents. My husband and I are not strict parents, but we are overprotective parents. Which is why I've always been glad that we were the hangout house, because I'd much rather have my kids here where I know what they're doing and where they are, than at another parent's house, because, you know, let's face it, nobody is going to watch your child as well as you are going to watch your child.
It kind of runs from Ben Hill Road all the way down off the map. You can only see a small section of it, but it kind of wraps around the, I guess what would be the front side of Summer's home. And that also creates some obstacles. If an intruder's going in there, there's only really a few ways in and a few ways out. It kind of limits their escape route. So a lot of hurdles here for someone who's going there with nefarious intentions, but strongly recommend, again, I can't reiterate it enough. If you're fascinated by this case and you're really genuinely interested in it, there's no way you can fully be doing your due diligence without looking at these photos. You have to check them out.
All right, so let's look into the backgrounds of the Wells and Bly families, because far before Summer Wells went missing, far before she was ever even born, her parents had experienced quite a lot, especially Don Wells, who he is significantly older than his wife, Candace. I don't know if you noticed that, but Candace is about, like, I think she's 34, 35, and Don Wells looks like he's well into his 50s, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. He's definitely older.
But they both had been married before they were married to each other, and they both had children before they had the 4 children that they shared, which is Summer and her 3 older brothers. Now, it looks like
I thought it was Don that said that. I could be wrong, but I know he did. If he didn't say it outright, he insinuated it in the very beginning.
This was married at a very young age. Some sources say 19. And she was married to a man named Andrew, and they had 2 children together, a daughter named Candace and a son named Andrew. It's been reported that the relationship between Candace and Andrew, the adults, not the kids, it's very complicated because Candace and Andrew had a daughter and son that they named Candace and Andrew. But the adults, Candace and Andrew, they had some abuse in their relationship. This also affected the children, who ended up being removed from the home at a very young age by the state. Now, it looks like the daughter, Candace, her name was Candace, she was adopted, but later placed in foster care. So the younger Candace, who now goes by the name Candace Floden, she wrote on Facebook, quote, "I was adopted at 6 months, put back into foster care around the age of 12 with my brother, same name as my bio father. I was told my bio mom was a meth head and abused us as babies. She has a record. Not sure if she has one where she is now, Tennessee, but she has one or a few in Wisconsin for sure." End quote.
Okay,
yes,
so this has me confused. So they're saying Candace, Summer's mom, Candace, had 2 children before. Is that what they're saying? Before Dawn? Yeah, I'm going to go back because I didn't quite get all that either. There are way too many people with the same names in this story. Morning, cats. Oh, come on. So, yes, Dawn has a son named Dawn has a son named Dawn, who I believe was serving time.
Like Candace was married at a very young age. Some sources say 19. And she was married to a man named Andrew, and they had 2 children together, a daughter named Candace.
I still don't know who was married to Andrew. Okay, that's right. So Candace, Summer's mom, Candace, had two kids, Candace and Andrew, before she was with Dawn. Dante, thank God you're in here. Could they not pick up a baby name book or read the newspaper baby announcements? I had totally missed all of this part, Dante. Not Candace and Dawn. Candace and I
home,
guess it's
and
somebody
that also
named Andrew.
creates some obstacles. If an intruder's going in there, there's only really a few ways in and a few ways out. It kind of limits their escape route. So a lot of hurdles here for someone who's going there with nefarious intentions. But strongly recommend, again, I can't reiterate it enough. If you're fascinated by this case and you're really genuinely interested in it, there's no way you can fully be doing your due diligence without looking at these photos. You have to check them out.
All right, so let's look into the backgrounds of the Wells and Bly families, because far before Summer Wells went missing, far before she was ever even born, her parents had experienced quite a lot, especially Don Wells, who he is significantly older than his wife, Candace. I don't know if you noticed that, but Candace is about, like, I think she's 34, 35, and Don Wells, he looks like he's well into his 50s, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. He's definitely older.
But they both had been married before they were married to each other, and they both had children before they had the 4 children that they shared, which is Summer and her 3 older brothers. Now, it looks like Candace was married at a very young age. Some sources say 19. And she was married to a man named Andrew. And they had 2 children
3
together.
brothers.
A daughter named Candace and a son named Andrew. It's been reported that the relationship between Candace and Andrew, the adults, not the kids, it's very complicated because Candace and Andrew had a daughter and son that they named Candace and Andrew. But the adults, Candace and Andrew, they had some abuse in their relationship. This also affected the children, who ended up being removed from the home at a very young age by the state. Now, it looks like the daughter, Candace, her name was Candace, she was adopted, but later placed in foster care. So the younger Candace, who now goes by the name Candace Floden, she wrote on Facebook, quote, "I was adopted at 6 months, put back into foster care around the age of 12 with my brother, same name as my bio father. I was told my bio mom was a meth head and abused us as babies. She has a record. Not sure if she has one where she is now, Tennessee, but she has one or a few in Wisconsin for sure." End quote. And yes, Candace Wells does have a record for domestic abuse, things like that. I'll talk about that in a second. But Don Wells also has 2 children with his first wife, a daughter named Margie and a son named Donald Wesley Wells. And the son, Donald Wesley Wells, he was actually convicted in Arkansas in 2007 of sexual indecency with a child. Now, according to Don Wells, his oldest son was in Utah at the time of Summer's disappearance, and Don Wells has also downplayed his son's charges, saying that in Tennessee they would be considered statutory rape because his son was 19 at the time and the victim was his girlfriend, who was 18 months younger. So Candace Bly has some charges for disorderly conduct and domestic abuse from 2003, and Don Wells has been convicted of multiple felonies and has served time in prison for convictions involving drugs and burglary in Arkansas, Utah, and Texas, as well as multiple parole violations in the late 90s and the early 2000s. In Arkansas, he was charged with possession of a controlled counterfeit substance without a prescription and burglary between 2006 and 2007. In Utah, he was charged with aggravated assault, interfering with a public servant, forgery, burglary of a dwelling, and theft from 1990 to 2001. But according to Don Wells, he found God in prison and he started studying the Bible intently because he wanted to change. And if you watch his early interviews, the ones he does with the legitimate news stations, not the ones he's doing with like YouTubers and stuff, Don does play up this religious.
Before Candace and Dawn met and were married, Candace was married before him, and she had 2 children, Candace and Andrew, who were taken. The girl was 6 months old, and then I guess they were reunited at 12 years old, so she hadn't seen her brother in 12 years. He does have a lengthy criminal history. That's like, there's so this case, I think, has more like branches coming off of the tree than any other case I've ever like been, involved in or watched or whatever. Like, it's crazy, all the different twists and turns and criminal, records and behaviors and everything else. Hi, Dax. Good morning. Yes. And then throw in Rose's disappearance. So Candace had a sister that also went missing years ago. I want to say when she was like 17 or something. But apparently Candace was caught saying that she took care of her sister Rose. So, but like I said, guys, we got to keep it reminding ourselves, just because they're not good, upstanding citizens does not mean that they absolutely did something to their daughter.
Angle quite a bit. He talks about their church and how they go to their church and how he's very, religious, and
Right.
he's so thankful for the good Christians out there who are helping look for his daughter, and he, hopes God will help and things like that. He plays up this angle quite a bit. So apparently Don met his second wife, Candace, and they moved to Tennessee when Don's mother got sick. And when his mother died, Don took over her property, which was the land on Ben Hill Road. And by the time 5-year-old Summer went missing, Don and his family had lived there for about 12 years. Now, this was the same property that deputies were dispatched to in October of 2020 after receiving reports of a domestic assault, and when they arrived, they found Don Wells behind the wheel of his vehicle. A stop was conducted in the driveway, and Don Wells was detained because, according to deputies, Wells was stumbling and there was a strong smell of alcohol on and around him.
Good morning, Bella.
Don told the police that he had a black powder pistol, and he revealed to them that he had been convicted of a felony in Utah. Deputies then spoke to Candace, who told them that...
Right, Bella. And I feel like people... I feel like people think that by throwing around, quotes from the Bible, or throwing around the fact that they are Christians, like that's going to somehow exonerate them of, the bad that they've done in their life.
That Don had come home drunk to find her with another man in their house, and he thought she was cheating on him, so he began to argue with the man. And Don Wells also had a struggle with Candace, causing her to be pushed down to the floor during this altercation, and she injured her knee. At that point, Don began punching himself in the face, and he left the house, at which point he was apprehended by police officers and booked into the Hawkins County Jail. The next day, Candace Bly filed for an order of protection against Don Wells, in which she stated that Don drinks and throws things, he was physically and mentally abusive, and she was afraid for herself and for her children. And her mother was also afraid that Don was going to hurt her. On April 21st, 2021, Don Wells pleaded guilty to possession of a handgun while under the influence, but the domestic assault charges were dismissed. According to Don Wells, there had been a miscommunication between himself and his wife, Candace, and she had asked the judge to dismiss the charges.
Tonight, Summer's father tells us that he and his wife have put that incident behind them, and all they want is for their daughter to come home safe.
I was in Utah, so she was thinking one thing and I was thinking another, but once we got to talk and figured things out, we smoothed it all out. I mean, it's just we weren't on the same page, a lack of communication.
The following day, Bly filed an order of protection against Wells.
I was just going to say, they weren't on the same page. Apparently you weren't on the same page because she's accusing you of being abusive to not just her, but the children and her mom. So yeah, I would say you're not on the same page.
Order, she says Wells drinks and throws things and that he was mentally and physically abusive. She said, quote, "I am afraid for my children and myself."
Because we were fighting, of course.
Oh, definitely, Bella. Right. That's what I'm saying. Coming on and saying we're Christians doesn't exonerate you of all the bad things you've done, just because, but I feel like people use it that way. They feel, I feel like people say, I'm a Christian now, that then they're past anything bad they've ever done is just going to automatically be erased. Well, if you know anything about Christianity or humans in general, just because you're saved doesn't mean you're not going to sin anymore.
Police, whatever, to get their way, we've worked it out. She's apologized to me.
4 days later, Bly asked for the charges to be dismissed. Wells pleaded guilty to possession.
I'm just going to say that right there sounds like an abuser statement to me. I'm just going to say, because abusers manipulate you. And so if you're abusive and in the end, the other person is apologizing to you, that's totally gaslit. She was gaslighted into apologizing. I'm sorry that you abused me, basically. Okay.
possession of a handgun while under the influence and turned the weapon over to the sheriff's office. The domestic assault charges and unlawful possession of a handgun were dismissed.
She's went to the
Same
district
AR.
attorneys. She even talked to the judge.
Good morning,
and
Kate.
Told him that she made a serious mistake, and and that's the end of it. She didn't get hurt, and I never hurt nobody.
Let's take a quick break and we'll be right back.
And Dante, you don't hear about it now. Do you hear about it at all now? I haven't heard about
Day, and they won't even know that you have won the
while.
healthy battle. And with Daily Harvest, there are tons of options for any time of the day. If you want something savory, you can reach for one of their flatbreads. My personal favorite is the tomato and basil. And if you're looking for something sweet, try their scoops. My favorite is the chocolate ooey and gooey midnight fudge, and it's a very healthy ice cream that tastes not healthy. The best part is everything is ready for you. No shopping, or heavy lifting. Daily Harvest is committed to human and planetary health, which means they do their absolute best to ensure transparency and integrity when it comes to their ingredients and the humans who grow them. It's truly a win-win. Case in point, by supporting farmers who invest in practices that increase biodiversity and improve the health of our soil, and by delivering food in recyclable and compostable packaging whenever possible, Daily Harvest does the work, so all you have to do is eat and enjoy. We definitely think you should check out Daily Harvest, and Derek's going to tell you how.
That's right. Stay busy and eat sustainably with Daily Harvest. Go to dailyharvest.com/crimeweekly to get up to $40 off your first box. That's dailyharvest.com/crimeweekly for up to $40 off your first box. One more time with that link, dailyharvest.com/crimeweekly. So there's a lot that to consume. It's really self-explanatory, right? They both had criminal pasts. And I'll first say that there are individuals who can have things like this in their past and go on to be great parents because they go through some things and they come out better on the other side. But I don't think this is a controversial take where even without these things, they're not the best parents.
You're exaggerating, Dot, but it was an awful lot of dogs, like 28 dogs. But here's the only thing I can fathom with that is if you have 28 dogs on your property, you probably listen to them barking 24/7, and you probably don't give much attention to it when they bark. You're probably not running to your window to see if somebody's pulling down the driveway every time they bark if you have that many dogs.
Probably shouldn't have kids. And I'm not even talking about their criminal history. I'm just talking about the incidents from that day. Just leaving your children in their house. It's the truth. Just leaving your children alone and not seeing anything wrong with it. You're setting yourself up for disaster. Little boys being left in a home by themselves for 8 hours. That's the type of stuff that gets your kids taken away from you if reported. Period. Just that in and of itself. So I don't mind saying it. May not everyone agree with me, but you take what we know about just that day and couple it with some of these other things where it appears they haven't completely moved on from their past. And even with the kids in the home.
I will say I like to hear his take on everything because he is, well, I don't know that he is anymore, but he was a detective. So it's interesting to hear his take on things. And for me, as opposed to Chris McDonough, like Chris McDonough is so full of himself. His head is so stinking big. I don't know how he got through the freaking door at the Wells house. But anywho, I much would prefer to hear from a detective's point of view from Derek than from Chris. That's just me.
There were signs of domestic assault and there were cops responding. It's not good for children in the household. I can tell you as someone who's had the police respond to my home, it's traumatic. And you couple that with the fact that there is clear evidence of negligence and not being present when your children are in situations that they could hurt themselves. Hate to say it, but not the ideal situation for children to be living in.
No, listen, I agree with you. And there are
I'm
situations,
not
like,
alone
I
in my thoughts
understand
there.
sometimes you're a single mother, you have to go to work. What else are you going to do? You've got kids, like, you have to work to keep a roof over those kids' heads. And, sometimes you have to depend on neighbors and relatives and things. But what we're dealing with here is a family who had a main breadwinner, and that's Don Wells. And he said often, when they moved to Tennessee, Candace, his wife, had decided she was
Me
going
too,
to be
Dax.
a stay-at-home mother, that she wasn't going to work and he was going to work construction and she was going
I was so excited when I found out these two were going to be working together because I like both of them.
to be a stay-at-home mother. So when you are a stay-at-home mother, there really shouldn't be a time where you're like, oh, it's either, pay the rent or leave my kids alone. That's kind of your job to keep the kids safe, because you're the stay-at-home mother or the stay-at-home parent or whatever. Just because you want to run errands and you don't want to have 4 kids with you isn't a good enough reason to leave them alone. But I will also say, the thing with having the guy at the house when Don got there, it looked like he was out of town, maybe for work or maybe to visit family, and then he came back in town and there's another guy there. And this guy, his name
Wasn't Hunter, was
no.
it? Okay. All right. Just checking.
I'm sure Don came home many a time to find Hunter there, so it wouldn't have been a surprise. But
you ain't kidding.
But however, this guy is kind of connected to Hunter and Hunter's mother, Allison, because apparently this guy was married. He lived in like a different state, and he was a friend of Allison's, and he didn't have a place to stay. So Allison had asked Candace if this guy could stay with her. And
so Dot, in the beginning, the boys in the beginning were said to have told law enforcement that they saw Summer walk out the door. But I don't know how they could see her walk out the door, because they supposedly were upstairs playing video games and Summer was downstairs in the basement. So she would have been going out the basement door. So the only way that the boys would have been able to see her go out or watch her walk out the door is if they were outside, because if you didn't see the video of the house, there's like a kitchen counter, and then there's like a cubby underneath the kitchen counter that you have to crawl into to go down the stairs to the basement, to Summer's room and Dawn and Candace's room. So there's no way for them to have seen her go out the door if it was the basement door. They would have had to been outside to see her come out the basement door. And also, apparently there is an update on the boys where Candace said that she talked to the boys, and the boys told her that they don't want to come home to her and Dawn, and that's what they are going to tell the judge.
like crash at their place.
Right,
And
Lilith?
I guess he did for a little bit. And I'm not sure if Don.
What's really weird too, Lilith, is they were in the midst of remodeling the house. So I don't know if maybe they were down in the basement, like if that was the bedrooms for Summer and for Dawn and Candace, because they were remodeling the upstairs or what. But yeah, everybody kind of thought the whole cubby going down to the basement type thing was kind of weird.
Wells just didn't know about it. It's all very like confusing, but I will also say having strange men that you don't know living in your house or crashing in your house or on your property when you have 4 young children there also isn't a great idea. Also not something I would do as a parent. And I'm not saying don't have family friends over, but make sure you know these people. And from what I can tell, Candace didn't really know this guy. It was just kind of like a favor to Allison, like, yeah, he can crash here. And he could have been anybody.
Yeah. We're just scratching the surface, right? That's why I'm saying what I'm saying. I know when I get a reaction out of Stephanie, I know I went somewhere, because she's not one. She's usually the one with the hot take. But it's definitely something where just with the limited amount of things you've told me as a parent myself, I wouldn't want my children being watched by Candace, period. I can see just from the limited information you've told me, I can say and mean it that I don't necessarily think those kids were in the best situation, but I'm also not saying that, oh, just because she was not a good parent that she killed her daughter. That's not what I'm saying. It's 2 different things. But at minimum, that negligence and that lack of attention to your child can lead to an accident that could be fatal, or an opportunity
Exactly.
for someone to take your child from you without you knowing for an extended period of time. That's what I am saying. It does create that environment.
Yeah, it's very difficult, this case, because typically I will try not to judge. You know, I've been in different positions. I've lived with a single mother who had to do all sorts of crazy things sometimes to go to
Lavaseur.
work.
Good morning.
And that meant sometimes leaving me alone with my younger sister, and I wasn't like really of an advanced age at that point. So I try not to judge because I've been there and
Exactly,
I know people who are
Dante.
there. But at the same time, like you said, am I going to be like, oh, Candace Bly is a great person, and yes, let me bring my kids over to her house for her to babysit? No, absolutely not. And when you have that gut instinct about somebody and a situation, it's important to listen to it. And I think that a lot of us out there, even if we don't want to judge Candace, probably still have that gut instinct where we're not like hiring her for a babysitter either.
Yeah, she's not winning Mom of the Year anytime soon.
Yeah. Now, in this next section, listen, we're going to get into some crazy stuff here. There have been other serious charges put against Don Wells for things he allegedly and reportedly did over 30 years ago. Now, normally, I wouldn't even talk about this because it would be all hearsay to me. You know what I mean? I wouldn't even talk about this. But he's kind of admitted it. So it's on the table. Don's stepsisters, Mary and Jeannie, they've accused him of sexually molesting them when they were younger. And Jeannie claims to have called the TBI the day after Summer disappeared and told them what had happened between herself and Don when she was just 5 years old and he was 12. According to Jeannie, the abuse started when she was 5. It continued on until she was 12 and Don was 19. And the strange thing is, like I said, Don Wells has not necessarily denied that this happened, but he does defend it, which is... It's hard to hear, but you'll see in this phone call with his stepsister Mary, another sister. And remember, this is a man who's found God because he wanted to be better. And remember, when he talks about his stepsister Jeannie in this following clip, he's talking about her when she was a child and she was 5 years old.
Well, I don't know, Donnie. She just told me that when we heard that Summer went missing, that everything came back to her. Because she was 5 years old at the time it started, and Summer is 5 years old, so she just...
Yeah, she ain't taking no blame on her part, though, what she did.
Yeah, but Donnie, she was 5.
Listen, did you hear that, you guys? I don't know, my dang... I have to go back. She was 5, and he says she's not taking any ownership
Back
or
to
blame.
her. Because she was 5 years old at the time it started, and Summer is 5 years old, so she just...
Yeah, she ain't taking no blame on her part, though, what she did.
Yeah, but Donnie, she was 5.
She was 5, and he essayed her, and he says she's not taking no blame on her part. What? Yes, Dante. I mean, granted, he was also a child, but way, way older and more mature than a 5-year-old, I would assume.
How could she take the blame? I mean, a 5-year-old don't
Oh,
even
of
know
course not.
anything
She
about
ain't gonna know shit. She ain't gonna take no blame for nothing.
Well, I don't
I mean,
know.
hell, she tried to sleep with Dad. I mean, hell, fire. She can try. I mean, when they gonna go down her first charges?
What's really
when are they
sad?
gonna do it?
What's really sad is if there's any truth to this in this little, and she was acting that way at 5 years old, then she saw it from somewhere. She picked it up from somewhere, and that's really sad at 5 years old.
I mean,
Today.
Oh,
Right,
today?
AR.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So I just want to let you know they're going to be coming after you, Donnie. And they're going to put you in
Yeah.
jail and probably extradite you back here to Utah. So I'm just giving you a
I
heads
doubt
up,
it.
okay?
I really doubt it. I really doubt it.
Yeah. Huh.
I really doubt it. I mean, it's so long ago. How can they? I don't see. And I never, it was. I mean,
honestly, I don't see how they could get him on that because he was also a child and it was like 30 years ago or more, like 40 years ago. So I'm not sure. Thank you, AR. I'm not sure how they would proceed legally against him, even if he did do it, because he was a child at the same, Granted, way older than 5, but still a child. Yes. Now, is this the other one that he's, because there's more than one that he's accused of with this.
In like 14, 15 years old, so she ought to go to the juvenile court. I don't know. See if she can press charges. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think it'll go through juvenile. Now that you're old, you guys are older.
Yeah, but I was a kid.
Yeah.
I was a fucking kid.
I know,
mean,
Donnie, but what I'm saying is when
she's just an evil bitch, Mary. She's just an evil bitch.
Dante, thank you.
She's trying to say I've done that shit to my kids, man. That's fucking ridiculous, man.
Yeah.
Fuck her and the horse she rode in on. Because we played a little game when when we were both little kids. She's gonna act all like this. She wants to be an evil bitch. Well, fuck her. She played along with me, Mary. She played the little game. She's not innocent.
Wow.
So
I think it's pretty fucking evil. Gonna wait for somebody 40 years just for when they was playing house or whatever, and she didn't have no problem playing house. You know, now all of a sudden, 40 years later, she's gonna say I did all kind of stuff to my kids and Donnie and Margie and everybody else. What the hell's wrong with that?
Yeah.
What's wrong with everybody? She was willing. We played house, Mary.
Yeah.
She stuck her hand down my pants first.
Oh my God.
First time.
Huh. Yeah, I don't know.
That's the truth. That's the truth. I swear on a stack of Bibles to that. She's the one that initiated the whole thing.
Right.
It was her.
Yeah, I wish I was there, Donnie.
Yeah, this did not help him.
Where she learned it from or whatever, I don't know, but I even remember the exact words. Well, I've seen my brother's, Winky. Can I see yours? And that was her exact words. And she's the one who initiated it. Where she learned it from, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I thought it was odd at the time, but I was a little kid too, man.
Yeah.
She ain't the only innocent one in this game. I was innocent too.
Right.
So
nobody taught me any better.
If he was 12, that's like prime age for hormones for little boys. That's okay, Dax. I totally understand.
Nobody taught me nothing. She was never hurt in any way. We played a little bit of house touchy-feely shit. That's all it ever fucking was. Fuck that bitch.
Yeah, I don't know, Donnie. I wasn't there, so.
You know what? If anybody was evil in this whole thing, it's her. She's the one that initiated it.
Okay, before you react to this, one more short clip that I want to play for you first, so you can react to both of them.
Boiling right
I know
now.
you. I watched your face, right?
I want to throw this mic.
That's what I'm saying. One more clip. Now you guys listen to this one. Okay, this is another podcast who Don Wells did an interview with, and the podcast is called No Thanks Investigates.
Right, Dante.
And here's that clip. I'm pissed too. I'm like can't even talk right now. So like, go ahead and play that.
Well, she was 5 years
old. Listen to her. No, she wasn't. She was 7. That's another fucking lie.
And you were older.
Oh my
gosh.
5,
well,
7.
That's still an age.
Well, you know what? Girls mature. Girls mature.
Oh my Lord.
Way faster.
I understand that.
They mature way faster in their evil ways. You know.
Oh.
Right,
I'm
but
sorry,
it does.
Man. You know, that's just how it is.
It's just one of those things, Don. If you went in front of a judge and said, "My sister touched me inappropriately," and then the judge said, "Well, how old were you?" and you would say,
"Guys, I have to use the restroom. I am going to put some music on, kind of like a palate cleanser." And
with the grind, I could change in my mind, pick a lane, commit and climb, the only way to win at life. I never miss that fact, taking big swings, bitch, hand me the bat, put me in the ring, you'll go out in a bag, 'cause I sing what I mean and I bring it to the mad light. Ain't got time to kill, I got time to feel, I took the red pill, I know life's short so I wanna live real, but how's it supposed to feel? I ain't play no games, I just do that's fact. And I don't feel no shame, it's a mood you lack. I go crazy, nah bitch I ain't lazy. Track after track, I work on this shit daily. Pass me the jack, right as fuel, got me hazy. About to unpack all these things I've been chasing. I've got visions in my head, like memories after death. To be a legend instead of something you can forget. I'm living up every breath, I'd rather lead than be led. I'll fill the seats as I spread, with every word that I've said. How's it supposed to feel? How's it supposed to feel?
When there's no hope hiding, no chance concealing what deep down I felt for you. Oh, I regret for losing the one who loved me, for who I can't go back to. Walking through all the dust and reason frame a past we simply let fade. Oh, but I don't close the door, waiting a chance for when we'll be back again. You make me feel so crazy, still in love with you. You make me feel amazing when I'm next to you. You make me feel so crazy, my heart breaks for you. Can't help but knowing that I'm still in love with you. You make me feel so. When there's no hope loving for you who saw me before I knew who I'd be. What I have around me means nothing to me if I can't share it with you. Walking through all the dust and reason frame a past we simply let fade. But I don't close the door, waiting a chance for when we'll be back again. You make me feel so crazy, still in love with you. You make me feel amazing when I'm next to you. You make me feel so crazy, my heart breaks for you. Can't help but know that I'm still in love with you. You make me feel so.
All right, guys, I am back.
I was 12, she was 7, and he goes, what shouldn't it be the other way around?
She come on to me. She come on to me, man.
She didn't
Now
come
she
on
wants
to
to
you.
turn it all around. And
Amen.
say all
Who's-
this
AR.
crazy
whose idea
stuff.
was the prank? Whose
But the
idea
truth,
was the
the,
prank call?
the matter is, she come on to me, bro. But you
But
all
she
don't
didn't
want to face that fact.
Well, but how can a 7-year-old come on to somebody? How does that
Exactly.
happen?
Oh, well, I don't know. Why don't you tell me that? I didn't understand it
How would
either.
how would I know?
Okay.
Okay.
Listen to the second clip. Guy's a scumbag. I don't want to get demonetized and just go off on a rampant here, but I'm not even, there's no justification for it. If anything, he's off with the math too, because I believe they were 7 years apart. So if she was 7, even at the time he was 14, he doesn't get younger as she gets older.
Exactly.
That's what he's trying to do. But, you know, I don't think I need to
Thank you, Dante.
explain to anyone other than Don that if that was actually
Thank you,
what
Talking
happened,
Life.
it's his responsibility to stop it immediately, not justify it. And the things he's saying about her are absolutely terrible. So just to add to my point that I was making earlier, because these interviews are from now, right? This isn't like 20 years ago. This is after Summer's gone missing. So this is his mind state right now. That's how he justifies things. This is Summer's father. So let's tie it into Summer real quick, unless you had something to say about those clips.
I kind of want to just say the same thing. As far as we know from Jeannie, she was 5. They're 7 years apart. So, and to me, it doesn't matter if she's 5 or 7. You know, like there's not a big difference there when you're 12 and 14. What he's doing here is he's making it seem as if a literal child could be the initiator of sex, and he was just like taken in by this siren song of this child. And he even says in that second clip, you know, women mature faster in their evil ways.
I'm using Restream for what?
This is how Don Wells sees women, and not just women, but little girls, actual children who are
Are you talking about Prayer Garden, AR?
5 years old. He views them almost as full-grown women who are capable of like sexually manipulating a man. And he even says, oh, she tried to do the same to my dad, this and that. He's talking about either a 5 or a 7-year-old girl. It doesn't matter. A literal child. Okay, go ahead.
Absolute scumbag. So if anyone didn't agree with me before as far as there shouldn't be children in that home, maybe we're all on the same team now. Okay, how does this relate to our case? Because we're trying to find Summer. We're trying to understand what could have happened to her. Easy answer is there was molestation in the home. It got out of control. Summer was going to say something. Don had a reason, an incentive to kill her and hide her body because he didn't want to be exposed for the scumbag that he is. Right? That's the easy.
There is a free version of it for what I have the pro version, but if you use Streamlabs too, if you get Streamlabs Ultra, it also comes with that free.
one.
Oh wait,
Well,
no, I
there's
lied. Melon's the one that comes with that free.
another option too. If she's being consistently molested in that home by Don, by whoever it may be, we have seen situations in the past where young girls who are being sexually raped, molested in this home, will decide to run away. And we're only being told the story from Candace, so we don't know exactly how that day went down. But could it have been a situation where Summer knew Don was coming home soon, knows what that usually means, tells mom she's going to go hang out with the brothers when she's not going to, slips down to the basement, grabs only a thing or two, maybe not as extensive enough to notice that she's leaving, maybe something that can't be identified by police because the house is in shambles, but grabs a couple things and then runs up that circular driveway and out to the road. And that's where she's abducted by someone, okay? Because now there's an opportunity for it.
Or lost, right? Lost in the wilderness. Coyotes, wolves, bears, all sorts of shit out there.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Could be an abduction, could be just an accident where she's running through the woods, she gets hurt. Maybe she got a far distance.
Yes, that's
exactly
what I was
she gets hurt and they just, in the grid, they didn't find her. But when we're thinking about reasons or questioning why, I was saying it earlier, why would Summer go that way? Well, this might explain it. And I'm not saying that this other person was molested, but it brought me back to Asha a degree. where Asha, from all investigators mainly believe she wasn't abducted from the home. Whatever happened to her happened after she left the home and she was picked up by someone, etc., something like that. This could be a similar situation. So it's really enlightening to hear this because it does give us an inside look into what potentially was going on in the household behind closed doors. When we're talking about reasons for Summer to run away from home, yeah, I think this would justify that, would be a possible explanation for her running away.
So I want to say, I'm going to get out in front of this. This is all alleged. It's an alleged theory.
Alleged.
We're not saying Don molested his daughter, Summer, okay? What I will say is that his sister, Jeannie, his other sister, Mary, they've both made these claims. There are now 7 women in total, some family members, some not family members, some friends of Jeannie and Mary's who would spend the night at their house, who are now raising these allegations against him in Utah. They're going to court and all that jazz. You don't go to court and pull something like this if you're lying. So I truly do believe that these women were molested by him. Now, he tries to downplay this, right, throughout the whole conversation. Oh, we were just playing house. It's just touchy-feely stuff. They were never raped. Okay, fair enough. But what I think he doesn't understand, which to me is enlightening that he doesn't understand this, is that as a 12-year-old or a 14-year-old...
For me, it's he didn't have to full-blown R them for it there to be SA.
Boy, it is not normal to want to play house or touchy-feely with a literal child. That's not normal. It's normal to be curious. It's normal to wonder, like, oh, what's under their pants, and they're a girl and I'm a boy and what's going on. That's normal. But as a 14-year-old boy or a 12-year-old boy, it is not normal. It's not acceptable. And it's not okay to do that to a...
And like I said, that is at an age where boys' hormones are raging.
Child. But he didn't even try to deny this. He wasn't like, it didn't happen. He's just like, it's not a big deal. That to me is the biggest thing. He could have denied it. He could have denied it and nobody could have ever done anything about it because it's basically 40 years gone. He said, she said. If he had said, absolutely, I did not do that, nothing would have happened. But this dude came right out because he doesn't think there's anything wrong with it. And there's definitely something wrong with it. And the fact that at this time, as a grown man, he still does not think that there's anything wrong with it to the point where he doesn't even have the shame to deny it, it says everything to me.
Yeah, and you're saying alleged, but let's be honest, based on what he said, just on what he said, now I don't know the statute of limitations in Utah, it's probably past it, but just what he said, she initiated it, she went down my pants. That in and of itself is child molestation. That would 100% get you charged by a police department. But I do believe there probably is a statute of limitations in place in Utah where even if he says, yeah, I did it, at this point, charges can't be brought. Although the stepsister was saying, hey, they're going to get a warrant.
If that's the case, Goral, it's almost even more scary because if he doesn't understand, then what's to stop him from continuing it? That's scary.
They're going to have you extradited. I don't know how long ago was that interview that we're talking, that interview that you just played?
Just like a month or so ago, not long.
Okay. So it could still be happening. I mean, I don't know what the statute of limitations on child molestation is. In fact, there might not be. Sexual assault, definitely. I think it's like 3 years, something like that to report it. But child molestation, there may not be a statute of limitations in Utah. And if that's the case, you could hear about Don Wells getting his ass dragged back to Utah very soon, which awesome. Love it. Love to see it.
He gets dragged back to Utah, tied to the back of a truck,
I wonder if he
honestly.
gets, because he's coming from the standpoint of a detective. Stephanie's coming from the standpoint of a crime channel. I wonder if she cringes every time he says the words that we're not allowed to say on YouTube, like the R word.
Just my opinion, allegedly, don't come for me.
Yeah, do you want me to disagree with you? That's not going to happen. Not going to happen. There's no recovery from that. One, you're done for me. We've discussed this before. There's no coming back from that. And he admitted to the one part of it, but he also, he framed it as if that was the start of it. That wasn't, he didn't say, oh, this was a one-time incident. It was like, that was what initiated it. And then I don't even want to talk about where it went from there, but that he made it very clear.
Right, Dante? And I'm surprised that wasn't a question that was given to him.
That she started it, and it started with the hand down the pants. I'm assuming it didn't end there. But nevertheless, heard enough. Don Wells is a piece of shit. Candace, just from the basic stuff that I've heard, as far as just that day and the days leading up to it, not very attentive as a mother, and something that's kind of required when you're a parent. So not a fan of either of them. That all being said, there's nothing here yet that suggests they would have had a motive other than the one that I just mentioned as far as Don's concerned, to kill Summer and then hide her body. Nothing tangible yet, and that's where we have to be careful, because you can be the absolute biggest piece of shit on the planet and still may not be responsible for Summer's death, if she's even deceased.
I get this too. Okay, so Mary, his other his stepsister, his other stepsister, she's the same age as he is. And she talks to him on this phone call, and she's like, well, what about that one day, with you and your friends? And he cuts in and he goes, oh, when I saved you from getting raped. So apparently him and a couple of his friends, when they were both he and Mary were, I think, 13 or 14, they basically like held her down, and they were like molesting her and like doing horrible things to her. And, he basically took part in that as well. So there's all these terrible stories, multiple women coming out. It's hard to try to remain unbiased about somebody like Don Wells.
So I get it talking about Candace being neglectful and stuff, but where were the parents back when they were kids? I mean, it sounds like there was an awful lot of stuff going on back then. Where were those parents?
When you're talking about a 5-year-old girl going missing and knowing how he feels about, children and young girls and things like that, it is hard to remain biased, but we are going to continue to try and do it because, like Derek said, there's no evidence and no proof that he had anything to do with Summer's disappearance or possible death.
Well, that said,
the only thing that gets me is I feel like if Dawn or Candace had something to do with it, how would they get the boys to go along with the story? They're kids, and now they've been out of their care since Summer was missing for just a month. So I would think that the boys would know something. One of them, there was 3 boys. So I would think that at some point the stories don't coincide.
Molesting her, if he was, and we found out down the road that Summer did in fact attempt to run away, would you be surprised now knowing what we know? No, I'd run away too.
No, and I will say that I don't think that him downplaying it and saying, oh, we were just playing house touchy-feely, it doesn't stop there. Like, if you do that as a young boy, 14, 15 years old, you always have this sort of perverted kind of like twisted view of sex. That doesn't change. That only escalates, right? When we're talking about molestation, not all young boys out there are touching their little sisters or their little cousins or their little friends. I want to make that very clear. I know there's some people out there who may think this is a normal part of like sexuality and exploring when you're a kid. It's not. It's not okay. It's not normal. The majority of young boys are not out there doing that. Did you do that when you were 13 or 12 or 14?
I think for most people, 99.9% of the people listening or watching, that is something that's commonsensical. It sucks that you even have to say that out loud because it seems pretty straightforward to me.
Yeah, you'd think.
I've said this before. My boys are 11 and 12 years older than our daughter, and they have that girl trained. Let me tell you, if she wears a skirt, if she wears a dress, she is to have shorts on underneath. She's now 14. She still does not wear a dress or a skirt unless she has shorts underneath. Her brothers have her trained well.
But I've seen a lot of people online being like, oh, that's completely normal. It worries me.
Yeah.
That is not normal. That is.
If you say it's completely normal, you will get blocked.
Yeah.
You will get blocked to the comments.
It's not normal, and it would only escalate from there. So somebody like that isn't going to start.
If you see that in the comments, flag them.
Oh, yeah. We're going to flag them, and we're going to get rid of them because.
Call the local authorities where you live.
We're going to find your IP address.
Tell them to be on the lookout for you. Yeah.
It's not good. So I hope nobody thinks that. And if you do think that, I don't blame you for thinking that. People are raised differently, but I do want you to revise your way of thinking.
I'll blame them for thinking that.
Yeah.
Let's take a quick break.
Leave your name and address.
Oh no. Let's take a quick break and give us some time to simmer down, and we'll be right back.
how scary is that? Like, first of all, for them to be acting like that at that age, you don't know if there was something done to them too, sounds to me like there is a long line of like generational curses in that family. Right, Dante, not a 14-year-old and a 7-year-old. Come on. I should have just listened to the ad. $54.16. I apologize, guys. For some reason, it is my internet going slow this morning, and I don't know why. Our internet, I swear, acts up when there's like no storms or anything. Then we'll be getting a horrible storm, and it'll be fine. All right, I'm going to try reopening my browser.
Without the 50 dogs on the property noticing. But I guess that's also assuming that Candace, see how it goes down to the road? Now, what road do you think that is? Ben Hill, right?
That's Ben Hill. It's got to be. Yeah, because it would have been a lot further of a hike to get out to that main road. And it looks more like that curved road that we saw in the beginning of this episode that we put up on the screen. Yeah, to me, this kind of holds true with everything. It's almost like you did this on purpose, right, Stephanie? Where it kind of holds true. I don't want to interrupt the video as it's playing. Are they still tracking it right now?
So now they run down and he says Somerset went down to the trail, fading on the road. And then it says it fades. You'll see them kind of go up towards like a driveway. Somerset ended just beyond the dogs who are at the driveway. And that would be the driveway that goes up to Candace and Don's house. Summer's house.
Yeah. So I don't know. We've talked about dogs before. I don't know how good these dogs were. It seems like they had two different dogs who kind of followed the same path. So that does give it a little bit more credibility. It could be an offender who took her out of that way.
Those aren't police dogs you see. Those are Don's dogs.
Yeah. Okay. They're Don's dogs. And what I'm saying, though, is regardless of the scent dogs that they are, regardless of, we don't know their training, we don't know how good they are at what they do. They both did follow the same path, so that does say something. Whatever they were following, they both were doing it, unless they were just kind of literally chasing each other. But let's, for the sake of what we're seeing here, say that this does have something to it. May that have been the path that Summer took to kind of escape the property without being detected, because it's literally the opposite direction of where the trailer was, so that she could come out that door and go out that way and not be seen by mom or grandma, if that's what her intentions were. And could it be a situation where someone driving by picked her up? Yeah, very possible. There's a lot of scenarios that could play out there. But as you said, these dogs, they're not canines, and whether canines or not, they do have, what is it, over 400 receptor cells just in their nose alone. So obviously dogs have a great sense of smell, and they appear to be like hunting dogs. So I'm assuming they're pretty good.
Sorry.
I do like the fact that there's two of them.
I was muted. I was saying I don't believe that somebody just picked her up at the road, like she made her way to the road on her own and somebody picked her up there. I don't feel like that. I feel like if she was taken that way, that she was led there.
Doesn't seem like Don was manipulating them in any way to kind of have them go a certain way to maybe support his narrative, because obviously their narrative is that she was abducted. And so this is good for him to say, hey, she wasn't killed on the property and then hidden. She was taken from our property. So I get all that. Like I said, with dogs, you would have to see a path or basically a resume to show success rates from the past in order for this to be something that we can really hang our hat on. And as you mentioned, these are Don's dogs. We're not going to have, I'm assuming there's not a paper trail to say how successful they've been in the past.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7 dogs in that one shot. So I think they're just running that way. I don't think they're tracking anything. No.
I mean, I don't know what they are. I don't know if they're hunting dogs.
Dude, no, they're like strays. They said people just leave these dogs on their property and then the dogs grow up. But what I'm saying is, like, I think there's just so many dogs here that you just see a bunch and they're just kind of going in whatever direction. Maybe they're sort of just running ahead of him, Like, I don't think they're tracking anything.
Maybe they're just on the trail that the dogs usually walk on, like they said at the beginning.
Trail, right? What?
Dog trail. Do we know if canines were ever brought in to maybe?
They brought in police canines. Okay, that they followed that trail. That's allegedly now.
So they're saying the same trail.
So the police have never said like, oh yeah, that's the trail. The police said the dogs, the canines, the legitimate.
The only reason I say that is her navigating her way through the, through the terrain. But when you keep in mind too, Dante, about the, there is a path that goes there. You could totally be right too. Because if there's a path that would walk her up to the road, then I could see. But I don't know, does that path go up to the road?
Dogs tracked Summer's path to the road where they then lost it. And the sheriff, Ronnie Lawson, was saying, maybe it's because of a change in like pavement or a change in but they never told us exactly what the path is. This is Don Wells claiming this is what the path is.
Okay, so when you were talking about Ronnie Lawson earlier, he wasn't referring to these dogs. He's referring to canines that he brought in. Okay, I thought that he was kind of referring to this video, like, hey, we saw the video. There was a separate set of dogs that were not put on video that kind of followed a similar path to the dogs that we saw in this video.
But you know what else I think is interesting? He says
how would they bring the search dogs in with all those other dogs around? Like, wouldn't you think that they would have to somehow board all those dogs or something, like get those other dogs out of the way for the police canines to do their job accurately?
Oh, in October, in June, it would have been easier to get over here because it's kind of loud right now. But do you see the one part where you're looking from the road up at the house? Even in October, even when the foliage is sparser than it would be in June, you can barely see that house. Okay.
Oh yeah.
I just want to point that out.
It's definitely secluded.
Yeah. So you wouldn't be driving by and say like, oh snap, there's a house up there. Let me go and see if there's a little child up there that is waiting to get kidnapped by me. You'd have to know where you were going. Not. You'd have to know you were going there specifically for Summer and like where she would be. That's what I'm saying. If you're gonna be an abductor,
unless she ran away, unless she ran to the street, which after what you just told me is now it's not as far fetched anymore.
No, it's not.
Now, after you guys have learned a little bit about the case, tell me, the tragedy pimps going there and basically standing on the road screaming things at the family house, or screaming things to their cars as they pull in and out of their driveway. How is that helping to find this child? That had nothing to do with finding Summer. And that's what aggravates the crap out of me with this case, is all the channels that got involved and were not trying to help her. Good morning, PR. All they did was hinder the investigation. Yeah, and the thing that irritates me the most, Dante, is that they were claiming to do these things like for good reasons, and people were sending them money to go on these trips and stuff. For what? They were not doing zero. They did nada to help any of the cases that they covered.
But you know what? Why are her parents so insistent that she did not run away and that she was abducted? Okay, they're not just insistent like, oh no, she was abducted, we didn't do anything to her. They're like, absolutely no, she did not leave this property. She never would do that. Somebody definitely lured her out or came up here and stole her. Why are they so insistent on that to the point where you heard, even at the top of this episode, that them saying, we know for a fact she was abducted? How do you know for a fact? How can you even say that?
Well, I think they know what people are saying about them. You know, the consensus out there is they are lying, and they are somehow connected to her disappearance and possible death.
Yes, but still, the wandering off theory would still work in your favor.
Or if you're going to go take the time and money and energy to go to Tennessee, do something that's going to help in the investigation. Go to TBI, say, what can I do? And if they tell you you're not helping, go home. This little girl should be first in this. It makes no sense to me.
But it seemed like they kept saying, why are all these cops and searchers around our house? Why is everybody looking around our house? There's no way she's anywhere near here anymore. You guys need to leave this property and look for her elsewhere because somebody took her off. And in the beginning, people were like, why do the parents want them to leave the property so much? Like, why do the parents want law enforcement to like get away from the property to the point where they're insisting she didn't even wander off when it's quite a like wild area? You know, it wouldn't make sense that she might wander off and get lost.
Yeah, a lot of questions. Like I said it last episode, I'll say it again. I can definitely see why a lot of our listeners, our viewers, and other people who are in this field have been really drawn in by this case because it's perplexing.
So on the official Find Summer Wells website, which is run by the Wells family, it says, quote, there is no way to know if it came from Summer directly or if her scent was on our dogs from playing with them and they spread it, or maybe on the boys if they came down through here after playing with Summer. But there is a good chance it was from Summer, possibly her being carried by someone. It is the only place that her scent was found to this degree that the dogs followed, end quote.
Yeah, I mean, you just said it, right? Their incentive is to obviously show people, let's say they're telling the truth. They want people to get off of them as the suspects and start tracking down the actual killer that's out there somewhere who has their daughter. And I say killer, we're assuming that Summer's deceased. We're all hoping she isn't, but we haven't heard from her. This case is still new. So there's a strong possibility that she could be alive somewhere. This isn't like Springfield 3 where it's been 30 years. There's a strong potential where
a year and she's 5. The stats are not in her favor.
Right. Not in her favor, but not impossible. So let's keep that hope. But and as far as their
remember the woman now or young woman that was just found that we covered on Wednesday. It does happen where years and years pass and the child is found.
Their motive, yeah, they're operating under the assumption that they're innocent and that they had nothing to do with this, and they're using this as evidence to support what they believe, which is that Summer was abducted, or at minimum, what they want others to believe.
Well, additionally, one of the Wells' neighbors claims to have heard a scream on the afternoon that Summer Wells disappeared. A scream that was preceded by a vehicle pulling into the Wells' driveway and the sound of a truck door closing.
The Wells family lives across the street from a neighboring property. On mirroring mountains, together they can be described as sentinels, which sit high over Ben Hill Road. The night Summer went missing, the neighbor swears that she and her 2 children heard a scream shortly before they joined the search for a now missing Summer Wells.
On the watch and hypervigilant. That's how Jody Sue Brown was the very day Summer Wells went missing.
There was no TV, no noise at all.
Jody Sue was in her cabin with her teenage kids, 19 and 14, waiting for anything.
We were kind of hyper alert because of property things that had happened the day before. So we were listening for noise. Everything was kind of quiet.
The sale brought a plethora of people to their door, confused about which piece of land was for sale, leading to a dispute of property lines.
While we were out at one point doing survey lines, and there was a flash of a car that went up Candace and Dani's driveway. Something about it struck me wrong.
She and her family next heard a truck door slamming and dismissed it as their neighbors. The next sound was harder to justify. About an hour and a half before Summer is thought to go missing, Jody Sue, her son, and her daughter heard something far more suspicious. A scream.
It stopped all 3 of us cold.
Her daughter was the first to go to the cabin door. Then all 3 were there, listening still.
We heard
I don't know. I don't know if you were in here yet this morning, Nicole, but that's what I was saying. I feel like she was totally about it for the clout, for the numbers that she could get on her YouTube channel. Like, I don't feel like her heart was in the right place at all.
Real, almost animalistic scream.
Animalistic, but not an animal.
Knew it was, wrong. It wasn't a dog. It wasn't an animal.
That vigilance kicking into overdrive. Jody Sue and her son went out to look for the source of the scream.
My son and I decided to go out, look and see what we could see. We went back onto the bank. Didn't see anything, didn't hear anything.
They went on with their evening. The kids returned to being kids. Jody Sue headed down her driveway around 6 to tend to flowers.
And at this point, I start hearing Candace hollering for Summer. And then my brain immediately went, scream earlier, this, uh-oh.
Jody Sue was the first to hear those calls and the first to join the search for Summer.
I dropped my purse. I tried to yell up at Candace. I was like, I'm looking, and I started looking.
Jody Sue searched one side of a creek, Summer's brothers the opposite side.
And you gave statements to the police, right?
It doesn't sound like they immediately did, Bella, because she said they went out looking to see if they could find what the scream came from.
Jody Sue had been interviewed many times by investigators, bringing up the scream often. But the sheriff doesn't believe the scream is related to the disappearance of Summer Wells.
She's been interviewed numerous times by not only my agency, but the TBI and FBI, and we don't find anything with that complaint or information related to this case.
Jody Sue wishes she could go back to just a short time before Summer disappeared and before the scream she believes was Summer.
Wish every day that when I heard that scream, I hadn't tried to dismiss it.
Hawkins County Sheriff Ronnie Lawson reiterated in an interview the same week as Jody Sue's that investigators have found absolutely no proof that an abduction has taken place.
So Jody Sue Brown, she says she believes she saw a car pull into the
looked exactly like one of my friends. That was weird.
Driveway, then the sound of a truck door closing, and then a scream just before she heard Candace yelling Summer's name. But once again, law enforcement, they claim that this is not a credible piece of information, and this has obviously led to other questions as to whether or not Jody Sue and her children.
I actually do subscribe to her to kind of like keep an eye on her content, but I've never watched any of her streams either, only clips.
Actually heard a scream, and if so, how did Candace and Grandma not hear a scream?
This is what happens when you only have...
See, and my thing is, Bella, if the scream was like, they describe it as an animalistic scream, and I think their reasoning behind that is just to explain the intensity behind the scream. But if it was that intense, wouldn't you have called somebody?
A small portion of the evidence. TBI, local police, FBI, they have it all. Timestamps, whatever they might have, cell phone, GPS cord, everything. And on the surface, my reaction is, well, how do they know that they didn't hear what they said they heard? That's my natural reaction. I'm sure it's a lot of yours. What do they have to discredit this family? If they're saying they heard a young girl scream, and they're saying that they heard Candace yelling for Summer almost immediately after, right? How are they completely ruling that out? What does law enforcement have to say?
The way they said it, AR, was that they knew it was they knew it wasn't an animal and they knew it was a human, but they described the scream from the human as animalistic. So I think they were more so like trying to describe the intensity behind the scream. And anyone that has kids too, like, you really can tell the difference between cries. You can tell the difference between your child being hurt in the cry that they would give you then, as opposed to, your child. I'm trying to discern whether I'm going to talk about a baby here or like a toddler, but the difference between your child getting hurt or your child having a temper tantrum. Those cries are going to be totally different. Good morning, Lotus.
Say, nope, you're wrong. We don't believe it's connected to this case. I don't see how they would be able to determine that definitively, but that also is because I don't have everything they have, and maybe if I did, I wouldn't feel that way. But looking at what I've just watched and coming to my own opinions based on that video, this is all tying into something where it could be a situation where Summer was taken by someone, and in that moment where she's being taken, where she realizes this person who may have presented themselves as being a friend turned into a monster for her, and as she's screaming and they're sticking her in the car, taking off, and then maybe Candace is yelling for Summer shortly after because she realizes Summer's nowhere to be found. That's possible. Still,
that's a good theory, Dante. Kind of like she doesn't really commit to anything. Kind of talking in circles and, like you said, in riddles. It's kind of like anything that comes back at her, she can retaliate with. Yes, but I said I didn't, I wasn't sure, or it could have been, or whatever.
It's a stretch, but the whole thing that's interesting to me is just law enforcement saying, nope, couldn't happen. Not true. For them to come out on record and say that, they better have something damn good.
So I don't believe that she heard a scream. It seems like this woman and her family in general have been inserting themselves into this case online, on Facebook, on YouTube, taking super chats, stuff like that. So I don't necessarily believe that she heard a scream, but she did say something that interested me. A property line dispute and a property sale that was bringing all sorts of people to the area who were confused about what property was for sale. That's interesting to me, because if you have a bunch of people in the area who aren't familiar with the area, who might be looking to buy a property, who might be wandering around trying to see which property is which, you might have somebody stumble upon Summer's home without knowing it was there before. So I would like to find out more about that. It was very difficult for me to find out anything about that. So I know there's a lot of people watching and listening who are like in this case, like in it, to the point where you're hearing everything going on. If you have any ideas, let me know. Email me, put it in the comment section if you're watching on YouTube. So I would like to know that, but I don't know about the scream. However, I will say that Don Wells has really grabbed onto Jody Sue Brown hearing the scream. He talks about it a lot in interviews, even though the police continue saying there's nothing to it. And they don't believe that what she heard was connected or that she even heard anything. So I will say that. Because don't you think if she did hear a scream, Grandma and Candace would have heard the scream? They're right there.
Yeah, that's one thing that runs through my head. You would think, especially if they're saying they heard Candace yelling for Summer almost immediately after, right? Yeah. So that's one scenario, but then could it also be, and we haven't gone there yet, but could it also be a situation where Don is upset and takes Summer with him somewhere, and Candace is yelling for Summer, and they're all kind of in this together now at this point? Something happened at the property. I mean, I'm going all over the place here, right? But who knows? You haven't even gotten into Don and whether he was actually home or was he at work. And I said first episode that police would definitely know that just by GPS coordinates, but anything's at play right now.
Yeah, I'm not really going to get into that because at this point it is all speculation. It's all people. He said, she said. I was going to talk about it, but I don't want to I don't want to go there. I don't want to have something that's not complete.
Like too far in the weeds.
And I don't want to, I'm sure, I have a feeling he was home sooner than he said he was home, but I don't have any evidence of that. And at this point, I don't want to talk about it without better evidence. So if you want to look it up.
Fair enough. I appreciate that.
Yeah, if you guys want to look it up and see, there was messages that Candace was sending to a friend saying like, oh, Don was actually home earlier than he said he was. Just don't tell anyone. You can look that stuff up. You can find it. It's out there on the forums, but it's all hearsay for me. And you can fake text messages and stuff so easily nowadays that it just doesn't feel right for me to really go in depth and use it as a legitimate thing at this point. Now, reportedly, both Don Wells and Candace Bly have passed polygraph tests, which Don Wells was eager to tell the media. To me, it means nothing. You guys know how I feel about lie detector tests. I feel like they're junk. I don't believe in them. And I think you can pass them if you're good at lying and if you remain calm and if you're on some serious drugs or alcohol that kind of makes you more calm.
Also, I feel like there are people that lie so much that they kind of lie to perfection and believe their own lies. So if they believe their own lies, then they're not believing that they're lying on a lie detector. So their body's not going to react in that way.
Then you probably might have a better chance of passing. But Don was very insistent to make this fact known to the public because by this point, most people had already turned on Don Wells and Candace Bly, feeling that there was something they weren't revealing and feeling that they knew more about their daughter's disappearance than they were saying. Just 2 weeks after Summer's disappearance, Candace and Don sat down with local news station WJHL, and what some believed to be their strange behavior and bizarre comments added fuel to the fire. By this point, both Don and Candace were insisting to anyone and everyone that they knew Summer had been abducted, and law enforcement and the TBI were still reporting that they had found no...
See, I didn't even know that part of it, Lotus, and I felt like it was, like her being all over YouTube and everything was a cash grab. And I didn't even know that she got all that,
evidence of an abduction. But the TBI had put out information to the public that they were looking for a 1998 to 2000 maroon or red Toyota Tacoma with a full bed ladder rack and white buckets in the truck bed. Investigators had reportedly received information that a vehicle matching this description had been seen in the area of Beach Creek Road and Ben Hill Road in the late afternoon or early evening of either Monday, June 14th or Tuesday, June 15th, 2021. And if you remember correctly, Summer goes missing on the evening of Tuesday, June 15th. The TBI made it clear that the driver of this truck was not a suspect, but they wanted to speak to him or her as they may have had potential witnesses and seen something which could help in the search for Summer. Now here's Candace Bly and Don Wells reacting to the news of the truck.
Just go to the FBI, the police, and clear it up. I don't know, it seems kind of elusive.
It's really strange that I've never seen this truck, and I've never heard of it until just recently. But I wish they would come forward and explain themselves.
We just want to focus on the good friends and Christian people that are trying to help us and praying for us and praying for Summer.
Yes.
And we thank
Bella.
them from the bottom of our hearts, and that's the kind of people we try to relate with and socialize with. So we don't know anything about, no red truck or...
The dogs got a scent of Summer through the path up, and it stopped up at the road.
We hardly know many of our neighbors, because we just try to be around good people. And we do have good people in this area. We found out since this has all happened. We got some real good neighbors and good folks everywhere.
I gotta say, I don't know if because I'm already across the point of like giving the benefit of the doubt to Don and Candace, in case that hasn't been made clear in this episode. And weigh in the comments below if you're watching on YouTube if you don't agree with me. But something that just came to me, and it's been in a lot of interviews that we've seen, and they've done a lot of them. I've never seen a tear.
Yeah.
Not one tear from either of them. Very calm, very collected, always on script. Maybe that's just their personalities. Maybe they got all their...
I feel like that too. Whenever I've heard Candace crying, it's only been hearing. Like there's no video, it's just audio. And let me tell you, when they did that prank, she was extremely convincing, and it was just a prank. She was acting. That did no favors for them because it showed how she could, pretend so easily.
Tears out off camera, but from cases that we've seen, that we've done right here on Crime Weekly, whether it's 6 months, a year, or 20 years later, anytime the parents speak about the loss of a child, they can't but help but break down because it's something, it's a wound that never heals. And that's not me just saying it, that's the truth. It's something that you never get over. Even you think about John Walsh. Obviously later in life he was able to talk about it, but even in
I'm not sure, Bella. I know they had the search dogs out. And like I said, they tracked her to the road, and then the scent stopped. But I don't know if they had actual cadaver dogs. Gosh, it's been 2 years now, so I would hope by this point they have.
Interviews years later, he was still breaking down about Adam, and that's a strong and mentally strong individual right there. He went on to create this whole different world that goes after people who hurt children from this. But even him, he still messes him up, and they, not a single tear, not even a tremble in their voices when they're speaking. So just an observation. Maybe I'm looking too deep into it. Let me know what you think. You guys are watching the same stuff that I'm watching for the first time. Stephanie's obviously seen this before. I'm interested to hear what you guys think though. And even if you're listening on audio, comment in the comments. You can hear their voices pretty even keel the entire time. It's interesting.
So I will say that everybody reacts to stress differently. Everybody reacts to loss differently. We've always said that. However, just how they're reacting and talking in general in these interviews isn't the only thing we're looking at. We're looking at a combination of factors, and them being basically emotionless and very controlled in these interviews, as Derek said, combined with all of the...
No, I always say, if anything happened to one of my children, you would have to put me in the mental ward. I think I'd be like catatonic. I wouldn't know how to function.
Other stuff that we know, it does not look good. But I will say in general, I wouldn't say that anybody specifically acts a certain way when under pressure. Some people go introverted. I also think Candace might be on something. All right, maybe like some anti-anxiety medicine or something, which could be numbing her senses, which could be dulling her affect. So I'll just put that out there. But yeah, you guys let us know.
Look at us changing roles. I'm proud of us.
Yeah.
I'm proud of us. Look at me being the emotional one tonight, and you're like, well, let's qualify. We did not do this intentionally. I like this.
It feels terrible, but I don't like these people, okay? I don't like these people.
Was when the grandma left. When she left Tennessee, and where did she go? Did she go to Utah or Arkansas? I can't remember, but the grandma left short. It wasn't that long after Summer went missing that the grandmother left. And I was like, that seemed so odd to me. Wouldn't you want to be there for your child whose child is missing, especially because you have experience with that? I would think that that's who Candace would have wanted, was her mother, because her mother had experience with it and stuff. It was really weird to me that the grandma left the state
to such an extreme level that I'm almost course correcting as dramatically. So I'm always thinking am I judging them because of how much I dislike them? So I'm trying to center myself to try and look at it objectively. And it's hard. It's hard, man, because I really don't like them. And I don't think they're all there. And I don't think that they are, the best parents, but it's hard to say that. But listen,
can I tell you why I'm here, why I'm at this point in this episode, this particular case? And you're quick to say, hey, no, Derek, you're wrong. But
right.
let me tell you why I am.
Doesn't sound like any of the family members had the kind of family that we're used to seeing, Dante. I don't know why I'm laughing either, because that's actually really sad. Like I said, I kind of feel like a lot of this has been generational, and it's just they just keep passing it down.
Where I am.
Okay.
Because I've come to a conclusion at this point in our investigation. And my conclusion is this: whether Summer was killed by her parents, whether she was abducted by someone else, or this was an accident that resulted in her death, no matter what way you slice it, in some way, the parents are responsible for what happened to Summer. And the reason I say that is because if she ran away because of something that was happening in that home. And if she wandered off the property and just wasn't seen by her parents, it's because Candace wasn't paying attention like she clearly doesn't do often. And if she was obviously killed by her parents, well, that's one self-explanatory. So no matter what way you slice it, this was an avoidable situation, and it starts at the parents. So am I holding them responsible for what happened to Summer regardless of what it is? Yep. Yes, I am. That's why I'm at this point where I am usually the one that qualified, because there is an angle where, it could have been something that they're not responsible for in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, I'll give those parents the benefit of the doubt. The John Walshes of the world, where he wasn't there that day, but, Adam was in a store and got away for a second, could happen to any of us. This is not one of those situations. So I just want you guys to know where I'm coming from, where you're like, well, who pissed in Derek's cereal today? No, based on what you've relayed to me so far, Stephanie, there's a few possibilities of what happened. Some of them do not directly involve the parents being responsible, but if Summer got to that point where she was allowed to be abducted, taken by someone, it was because it was on Candace's watch, at minimum, maybe Don too, and it should not have been the case. So that's why I am where I am on this.
No, I'm with you. Looking at that house, looking at the way those kids lived, Summer deserved better. Her brothers deserve better. I completely agree. I love this about you. I love this for you.
It's not often, but I mean, you're one. We don't always agree. People say it all the time. I mean, do you see where I'm coming from? It's I can't tell you what happened to her, but I can tell you it starts at the home.
I said the same thing about Madeline McCann's parents. I said, you don't bring your kid to a foreign land that you don't know the area. Leave them in a place that you don't know, that's on the street with the door unlocked while you go to dinner someplace else. No matter what happened to Madeline, her parents are still at fault because they decide to leave her alone. You have certain responsibilities as a parent. And I don't want people to be in the comments saying like, oh, you're judging them because they're poor. No, you're judging them because they're poor. You guys are judging them because if you think that poor equates immediately to being a shitty parent, that is being fucking judgmental. That is judging them because they're poor. We're not judging them because we're poor. I know lots of people who aren't well off that are great parents. I was broke. My mom was broke growing up. She was a great mother and she was very protective of me.
I'll put it in the chat, Cats, and it's also in the description. It's Crime Weekly. Stephanie Harlowe and Derek Lavaseur. Stephanie also has her own true crime channel, and both of those links are in the description.
Not well off, being, at the poverty level does not mean you have to live like a slob. And it doesn't mean that you have to be a shitty parent. And anybody who thinks, oh, well, they're poor and that's why they live like that and you shouldn't be judged. You're judging them. You're saying that poor people live that way and are shitty parents. You're the one making judgments. So that's all I'll say about it.
Yeah. I mean, listen, it's pretty simple. I'm judging specifically Candace because she admitted that she left her 3 boys at home alone all day. There's a situation at the watering hole, for you to take it at face value, where Hunter, the teenager, how old was he? Is 15. He teen? Still a teen when this happened? 15 years old, possibly saved Summer's life from her drowning because Candace wasn't really paying attention. And then the obvious with Don's past, whether he's responsible for this situation or not, still a scumbag, admitted that basically he molested his little sister. So yeah, just that's what I'm judging them on. I'm not judging them on the way their house looks, how they talk, how they walk. Could give a shit. I'm judging them off the things they have admitted to openly in public that I don't think under any condition should be acceptable.
I agree. And now we
got to find Summer.
Yeah, well, yeah. And I want to go back to their interviews because Don and Candace, they got a lot of heat for referring to Summer in the past tense during this interview and others, to the point where Don actually catches himself and corrects himself, and he cites the fact that people have been accusing him of talking about his missing daughter as if she knew or as if he knew she was already dead. But then he also continues to refer to her in the past tense along with Candace also referring to her in the past tense. It's almost kind of ridiculous how they're like, we know we shouldn't be doing it, and then they go back into doing it.
She would always want me, she says, Daddy, hold my hand so I can twirl, and she would just like to twirl and twirl and twirl until my arm got tired. I put out there that one of Summer's favorite songs was Godzilla, and they say, and they're jumping all over me about past tense was, well, I'm sorry about that. It's just.
She also liked the song by New Breed. It was called House, My House. She sung that a lot of times when I play it on the TV.
Right, Dante. And they also both were, caught referring to her in the past tense. She, liked, and people always, any kidnapping case, I think, people watch for that.
She loved to dance.
She liked to think of herself as a princess, and and all that, like all young girls do. And
she loved Frozen. She loved to be that Elsa, and
I think she really loved to be in church because she felt a lot of love there. And I think you can't explain what that love is, but you feel it and you know it. When you're young, and she felt that there, and she loved everybody in that church, or she loves everybody in that church. I should rephrase that because they'll tear that apart as past tense, and I apologize again for that. I hope she gets to come home, and I hope she gets to be with our church family again.
Our best friend in that church was Robin. She loved her to death.
Yeah, she looked up to women that were...
She come to that church, she went looking for Robin. That was her favorite person.
Any woman that was professional.
And Lotus, Dante, is Robin around anymore? That's another one I've not heard anything about or from in a long time.
Was pretty beautiful.
She looked up to those kind of women. She, they were, the word I'm looking for, I can't think of it, but she looked up to them. She'd give them a run for their money every day. She'd give them a run for their money. And there was times, we'd be, that our boys like, don't do this and don't do that. And next thing you know, a stick would come up and just whop them, and be like, Summer, don't do that.
Summer was the boss of the family.
She was typical girl.
They get on a line, she'd put them in line.
She'd do her best.
She'd love to play in the mud and the water and swing on her swing and enjoy dirt.
When I run the lawnmower around, she would run behind me. When the boys run their bikes around, as fast as that little bike could go, she would be behind them running and keeping up with them, no problem. She loved to run. She just loved to run. And she could pull herself up on that swing, her full body weight with her two hands. And she could do that. None of the other boys can do that, but she can.
Was she in school yet?
No, she's going this year.
This was supposed to be her first year.
She's been, we did all the, what?
I took care of everything.
Yeah.
I had her already took on all of her shots and registered in the school ready for this year.
I don't have a lot to say about that clip. I've said it in the past. I don't think Don or Candace are scholars by any means. So the past tense, present tense thing to me, depending on the situation, if it's like a 911 call immediately after, that can maybe give you some insight. But when you could see they constantly went from present to past in there, and I don't put a lot of weight into that. I never have. Some people do. I don't.
I agree. I think it can be sometimes just a certain vernacular, a certain way that you talk, where you kind of do. I've done it before. Like when I was researching this and then I was going through, I did it with my own kids. Like, oh, Bella loved to do that, and she's like standing right next to me. So it depends. But maybe the past tense or the reason for the past tense wasn't necessarily a sign that they knew what had happened, but simply the fact that they felt with everything in them that Summer was gone, that she had been taken, and she wasn't coming back.
If there's any way, if you can find it in your heart to please release her somehow, I don't know how you might do that. I mean, you're probably scared of going to prison for the rest of your life and everything else, I'm sure. But please find it in your heart. Have mercy.
That was encouraging if somebody has her. I know you probably think you're going to go to jail for the rest of your life.
And find a way of letting her go and where we can get her back. And just please have mercy on her and, and us and her brothers. And she's such a loving, good spirit. Please don't hurt her. Please let her come home. My biggest fear is, her being tormented or locked in a dungeon or basement or something, because she loved to be outside all the time. That was her, unfortunately, her downfall. Because a lot of times the boys would be inside and we'd be like, "Where's Summer? Why'd you leave her out there alone? Go get Summer now." And that's happened over and over.
Right, Cats, and they really walk into it a lot. They do. They walk right into some of the mess that they've created since she, went missing.
Again, and we'd come out, and she would always be close by, but we was always coming up. She had to be outside. She was an outdoor person, and
she loved to be outside.
Yep. And I'm so afraid that she's locked away. she's such a loving heart and everything, and I'm afraid that she won't be able to, you know, I'm blocked away where she can't be outside or play with a puppy or anything, love nature, you know, and that's my greatest fear, that she's not able to do any of these things anymore, or that she could possibly, you know, I don't want to think she's dead, but it's a possibility. I don't want to address all the negativity. I just want to focus on the positive, because it's so easy to get, you know, lost in that negativity and stuff, and it's just not worth it. I lose hope.
Lose it.
And I think, well, maybe we won't never see her again, you know. So I start thinking in past tense. Sorry, but I'm trying to keep hope up. I'm trying to keep my prayers up and all that.
So to be fair, saw a little emotion there. You know, I'm looking for it now, obviously, and I saw a little emotion there from Don. He might be the type that isn't a crier, but there's definitely some trembling in his voice. I can see he's getting a little choked up.
See, I kind of, I hate speculation, but I feel like if it was like, I could totally see Dawn protecting Candace if it was like an accidental type thing and something happened to her. But even then, you would see more, you know, you would see more emotion coming from him than what we've seen.
He's talking about the potential of what's happening to Summer as he's speaking. So give credit, you know, where I see it. I'm not going to just ride the narrative that I'm trying, like I'm going one particular way. He definitely has some emotion there. And now that you've said it, I definitely see that Candace could be under something because of maybe the stress, the trauma, whatever it might be, that she's highly medicated, because she just seems like she's completely out there, just like spaced out. Like she throws a word out there once in a while, but if you compare it to some of her other interviews, completely different person. So that's why I think we're both saying it now. She's doing, something's going on, whether it's she's been drinking or medicating, whatever it may be. She's not completely in that conversation.
But listen, in this past clip, when
I will say, a lot of times when stuff like that happens, when a child passes or your child comes up missing, a lot of times doctors will give you medication because you aren't able to function, you aren't able to sleep, you aren't able to eat. So she could have been under the influence of prescription drugs. Not saying that's what it was, but it could be.
Don Wells said Summer loved to be outside. It was her downfall that she loved to be outside. That struck me harder than any past tense statement ever could. Okay, it was like he was blaming her, kind of like he blamed his half-sister. Like, she came on to me. She stuck her hand down my pants. Right. Summer got kidnapped because she loved to be outside. It was her downfall. This is 2 weeks after she's missing. Not only is he saying it's her downfall, and basically it's her fault she got kidnapped because she loved to be outside, not because her parents weren't watching her, not because she wasn't being protected, because she loved...
Take into account who you're talking about here, Stephanie. I mean, he just accused a 7-year-old of coming on to him.
To be outside. She made herself a target. But he's also saying, you know, she could be dead. I want to have hope, but it's hard to have hope after this long. It's only been a couple of weeks. So it strikes me as I personally, if my 5-year-old was missing, of course I would be fearing the worst, but I would not voice it out loud. I would be like, hope, no, she's alive. You know, she's alive. I'd have to keep saying that in order to keep going, because the idea that she could be gone from the world, that somebody had stolen her from me and hurt her, and I never had a chance to say goodbye or hold her or give her a hug one more time or smell her hair one more time, it would break me to the point where I could never say it out loud. So to have him so casually just being like, yeah, I mean, she could be dead. I don't want to think it, but could be. It does not sit well with me. I'm just going to say it.
No, I don't like it. As far as the downfall comment, it could be lack of vocabulary, like misspeaking, like just a lack. Again, I'm not a Don fan, but it could be a situation where she was outside doing her own thing, enjoying the woods and playing, and some creep came by and saw her playing in the woods and took advantage of it. Yeah, it's possible. So her being in her element, doing what she loves, may have exposed her closer to the street to someone driving by. Now, he didn't say it that way, though. He said it completely different, which is why I think it rubbed you the wrong way, and probably rubs some of you watching and listening the wrong way. Yeah, I'm just over these two, although I would love the opportunity to interview Candace when she's coherent, because I think there's opportunities there to a tactic that can be used to kind of pin her down a little bit more. And maybe she already has been by official investigators. We've seen the interviews with Chris, who's done a great job, things of that. I mean, he has the experience for it as well. He is a trained investigator.
I followed it for a little bit and even started to cover it. But once it got to be such a circus, I backed away because it just made me sick that I just felt like she was being forgotten in all of the coverage.
really, we're only seeing parts of it, but I really wonder if someone drilled her down to, and there's ways you can do it, but when she says it was only minutes, you look at her, Candace, it wasn't minutes. It was an hour, wasn't it? Like really push the envelope, try to create a bigger window where something could have happened that maybe would explain this crazy situation where we're led to believe that she disappeared in a matter of minutes. That's what I think everyone's having a hard time wrapping their head around, which is also why a lot of people think the parents did it, because if that's true, it was too small of a window for any of that to happen. If she noticed that she was missing minutes later, to what you said earlier, she would have heard the screaming. She would have heard, because she would have already been looking for her minutes after she noticed she was gone.
I don't think even if you were face to face with Candace Bly and you said, Candace, it wasn't 5 minutes, it was an hour, right? I literally don't think. I think she would, start looking off in the distance, start talking about Chase being on the case, and it would be over. She wouldn't answer you directly, because there's been a lot of questions that I've seen her asked where she kind of pretends to be confused or she loses her train of thought. And I mean, maybe she is confused. But I think at this point, she's convinced herself it was only a couple of minutes. That at least, I will say, she has convinced herself that her eyes were only off of Summer for a couple of minutes. And that's it. That'll be the end of it. We'll never get the real timeline, although I'm sure 100% it was more than 2 minutes.
I know we still have more to go, but when we get close to the end, I want to, we always do like our little sum up of the episode. I'll elaborate more on there's a lot to take away from that interview, just even the body language, things like that, but we'll keep going.
Well, I do want to play you one more clip from that interview. To the people who were suspicious of Candace and Don, the haters, as they call them, Candace and Don had this to say.
Yeah, there's always going to be haters, and it's always going to be that way in this world, and we just want to focus on the good.
I'm sorry that you feel this way about us, but we love our children with everything we have. We've never went without, thanks to Summer's daddy and my husband. He's always provided for us and has worked as much as he could and can, and still is. And I'm sorry that you guys feel that way, but that's my baby, and nobody would ever treat her like that as long as I was around. Ever.
6 weeks after Summer vanished, her 3 older brothers were removed from the Wells home after an investigation. In the aftermath of this event, Don Wells, he kind of made it seem as if the boys had been taken from the house because of all the attention the family had been getting since Summer disappeared, which had brought in all sorts of people to their property, like YouTubers and amateur sleuths who were either harassing the family at home, harassing Don Wells at work, or sneaking around on the property looking for clues, air quotes.
Right. Again, they actually got Don fired from one of his construction jobs, and they were proud of that. They thought that was the bee's knees. They were so proud of themselves for getting him fired. How was that helping Summer? How was that helping the other children in the family? I mean, gosh, I just don't get the stuff they do, how people, because some of them are still getting the super chats and the cash apps and blah, blah, blah. Some of them are still raking in the dough on other cases that, after they have like totally exploited this case. I just don't understand how people believe that what they were doing was helpful to any investigation.
Have a combined following of over 2 million people. They say they came here for answers for both themselves and their ample audience.
I mean, it's been 6 months. 6 months. 6 months. And I don't want this girl to be a cold case.
They're at like a stalemate here. It's been 6 months and they still don't have answers.
So they are here, 4 social media sleuths from around the country traveling here to Hawkins County to keep up awareness. Summer Wells is still missing.
Pressure breaks pipes.
They are social media influencers and investigators. Their goal is to make noise and get noticed. They say it brings attention to victims, but criticism to their tactics.
And any leverage I can use, whether I like what's coming out of my mouth, if it's leverage that I can pull people in, I will use it.
While in town, they say they met with the sheriff's office and surveyed the Wells property. They deliver any findings.
The boys were questioned. In the beginning, it was said that the boys said that they saw her walk out the door, but they couldn't have seen her walk out the door unless they themselves were outside, because if they weren't outside, they were upstairs playing video games, and there was no way for them to see her walk out the basement door if they were where they supposedly were playing video games. Yeah, they were removed a month after, and Candace was just there was texts exposed that Candace said that she talked to the boys. They don't want to come home to her and Dawn, and that's what they're going to tell the judge.
back to law enforcement.
This has opened up almost like a niche market for crime solving.
The idea is to keep spreading awareness. A finger touch to their phone starts their sometimes nightly conversations with their hungry for answers audience
Our mission.
who support them.
The footage will speak for itself. So that's a super chat right there. Someone just donated $10. Thanks.
That $10 little by little adds up to pay for the means to work,
That is not helping.
which is what they say this is.
We're down in Florida. We're over in Utah. We're in Wyoming. We're now in Tennessee. This stuff costs real money. And, this is a full-time job. And
it costs real money for them to go and harass and attack the family members of all these, of all these cases. They literally play judge and jury from the get-go.
Way we could,
and because of the statistics that are, that show however many, how like you'll find statistics that say 80% of abductions or, whatever are somebody, or, they take that statistic and run with it and try and convict these people all in one fell swoop. And they will be right part of the time, right? Because, if the statistics are really high and that's what they're stating, then chances are that they're going to be right. That doesn't mean they knew it,
afford to do something like this is by providing a service to the viewers, providing information they're getting no place else.
Yeah, so I don't like this. I don't like it, and I don't want to make it about this too much. This is kind of like a passing thing, but I don't know these people. I've never heard of them. Maybe they have some type of investigative background, but my argument would be this. I love that they're raising money, and they're raising a decent amount of it, I bet. So I would prefer...
They're not raising money for her. They're raising money for them to travel to go harass people.
To see that money going towards tools and resources that actual investigators can utilize for this case, or raise the reward amount for information that could potentially find Summer.
And I don't have a problem with them taking super chats if they're sitting at home and they're talking about the case and they are interviewing people and they're bringing on, like, I know a couple of these guys did get some great interviews with Don and Candace that kind of showed their true colors, kind of off book. But I don't see a point to travel there. And in fact, a couple of these people did get themselves in trouble. I think one person got arrested for trespassing, and it was kind of a mess. And I think it kind of gives like Don and Candace like this way to make themselves look like victims, even though I wouldn't say these two are like necessarily victims, but they can now say, oh, well, you guys are harassing us and you're attacking us and you have no proof and things like that.
Right,
So kind of,
Lotus? I mean, seriously, this boggles my mind. Somebody please explain to me why people still give to them and think that what they are doing is good. I don't see, I just can't wrap my head around it. And to be doing this stuff in the name of people that are victims, it's so gross to me. See, I used to, Dante. I never watched Olivia. I never watched Justin or JLR, but I did watch MGL. I've watched Bullhorn Betty a few times, but I just can't tolerate Bullhorn Betty. This is the best way for me to put it.
gives them a way to distract from what's happening with Summer.
Now, we've been consistent. I mean, even with the Laundries, we think that Brian Laundrie's parents are definitely hiding stuff. But when you start seeing people on their lawns and harassing, well, we allegedly believe it. But when you see people on their lawns and doing their own investigative journalism, it doesn't help. It doesn't help. So, yeah, I'm pretty consistent on that.
I agree. And, Don Wells, he told one podcaster, quote, right now with everybody attacking us and all this stuff going on, it's probably better for them, end quote. And this is in reference to his 3 sons being removed from his home and his care. But later, Don Wells admitted that the real reason his sons were taken by CPS was because of a lot of people who were coming at him and accusing him of things. And he said, quote, I believed that stuff like an idiot. I believed it and I flipped out, started drinking and everything else. And that's why they took our kids, end quote. And it looks like Don Wells did not really learn.
So it wasn't their fault. It was everybody else's fault.
From his mistakes, as just a few months later on October 31st, 2021, he was arrested and charged with driving under the influence, open container, expired registration, improper lane usage, and violation of financial responsibility. The following February, Don pleaded guilty to the driving under the influence charge, and the state dropped the other 4 charges.
That's what I'm saying, Blondie, and I feel like these people that give to them have to be, I don't know, like I can't wrap my head around it. What part of what they're doing do people think is helping in any way, shape, or form, and that deserves, to send them your money to fund them to do this. That they're making things worse. So you're basically giving them money to hinder an investigation.
And although this was his first DUI, Don's arrest was a violation of his probation, which was related to a previous charge of possession of a handgun while intoxicated. So he was taken directly from the courthouse to the Hawkins County Jail to serve out the next 11 months and 29 days behind bars. So during his sentencing, the judge asked, why did you drive under the influence of alcohol? And Don responded that he and Candace were arguing and he had wanted to get away, to which the judge responded, quote, "That's what feet are for," end quote. Now, where it stands now, Don Wells is still in jail, and he claims that both he and Candace were taking classes and working to regain custody of their 3 sons. On July 19th, 2022, Don Wells shared a letter with the media, a letter that was addressed to the person or persons responsible for kidnapping Summer, and it went on to say, quote, "Not only have you broken Summer's heart and taken her away from her mother and father who love her very much, but you've ruined her chances to become educated, ruining her life. You've also broken the hearts of her father and mother and brothers, and in the midst of all the commotion, ruined our lives. You see, the public blames us. I don't know if we'll ever find employment again. Nobody will hire my wife, and I've been fired from a job I had for 13 years. We may end up losing everything. When you took our little girl, you took our lives. Why don't you give our little girl back before God's wrath descends on you? You've broken many hearts and more, especially an innocent 5-year-old girl's heart. One day God will hold you accountable for this crime unless you do something to make this right. Please do the right thing and turn our daughter over to the authorities," end quote. So I would just like to mention that Don has said multiple times that his wife Candace was not working when Summer disappeared. She hadn't been working in several years. She'd made the decision to be a stay-at-home mother. And at the time he was arrested for the DUI in October of 2021, Don also told the judge that he was working full-time. So I'm not sure what he's talking about, that they can't be employed and nobody will hire Candace and this, and that. And some might say their circumstances have improved since Summer went missing, because it looks like they kind of raised some money and they began renovations on their home in the fall of 2021. And they actually put stairs where the desk and the hole used to be that led down to Summer's room in the basement. So there's stairs and like a railing there now. Don Wells' letter to whoever had taken his daughter was followed up by another letter addressed to Summer herself. And this letter said, quote, "Dear Summer, I don't know if there's even the remotest chance of you ever seeing this letter, but I'm going to write it hoping you will. First of all, I want you to know that I love you with all my heart. I've never missed someone as much as I miss you. My heart aches constantly, and then the thought of someone mistreating you puts so much anguish and fear for you that I can barely breathe at times. I beg God for your life and break out in tears constantly. I'm very glad I got to spend 5 years with you, but now my life always feels like snow, rain, and drizzle, never ending. You are the highlight of my entire miserable existence on this earth. I love you, Summer, with every fiber of my being, sweetheart. I love you, and I will never give up on you, and one day I will see you again. Always and forever, your earthly dad, Father," end quote.
So hard, because there's a situation here where this could be genuine, where this is the thoughts of a father who lost his daughter. And again, I'm looking at this through the lens of, I don't know what he's previously done, so just bear with me here because it's hard for me to even say that. But there is a situation where we can separate the two. Scumbag as scumbag for what he did, scumbag for his perception on what he did now, and yet even with all that being the case, he's not connected to what happened to his daughter in any way, which is possible. It's possible. So this could be the true feelings of Don, and he may be even looking at it like, this is my karma for being so, he says he's a religious person. He might be looking at it like God has a funny way of getting you back and, making you pay for what you've done. And this is my...
I don't believe that. Not for a freaking second. He does not seem sorry at all. Not once did you hear...
I'm not saying we believe it. He may see that.
He doesn't seem sorry. He never said once like, "Oh, I am actually sorry I did that to my sister." Like, I know she probably feels bad about it. "I'm sorry I did it. I was young."
Oh yeah, no,
he
yeah.
Doesn't feel sorry. He doesn't feel like it's karma. If he feels like this is karma, he's probably thinking like, "What the hell did I ever do to deserve this?"
It's a tough one. It's tough to kind of separate the two, because we know what he said publicly and what he's allegedly done, and then you see letters like this or hear letters like this, and as a father, you can relate to that, where it's like, Jesus, I couldn't imagine. But I think it's safe to say that myself and many other fathers out there aren't Don Wells and don't conduct themselves the way he does.
What do you think about the interview? You said there was some stuff about body language that you had noticed.
Yeah, I know we have one more part, so we won't go too deep, but I'll just say this, and I just got to be candid with you guys. There's sometimes where people get lucky and they carry out a crime and they're not apprehended. It's not linked back to them because, again, they just got lucky. There seems like there were too many eyes and too many ears in this particular group of individuals, Candace, Don, Grandma, the 3 boys. I don't see how this could be something that was carried out on that property and someone not slip up. I've always said if more than one person knows, it's no longer a secret, and someone has
going to probably be demonetized anyway, just because of how deep it goes in parts.
To be at the head of this situation where they're at fault, they're the main culprit, they're the main reason that whatever happened to Summer happened, and everyone else is just kind of guilty by association. And I would think that one of them at this point would have slipped to a friend, a family member, news outlet, something. I don't see this group of individuals, this family, being a tight bond where, let's say, for example, you believe that the Ramseys are responsible for what happened to John Bonet. They were a tight family. They took whatever happened. Patsy took it to her grave, and John Ramsey's still out there professing that he had nothing to do with it. Maybe that's the case, but I know a lot of people believe that it was a cover-up, that they did it. I don't see this family being able to carry that out and completely.
You're fine, Blondie. Especially when we're talking about stuff like this, I feel like it hits so many emotions that, you know, you're not the only one that wants to say words like that. So don't feel bad.
Avoid detection from the TBI, local police, and the FBI. There's not a single piece that connects them to this. So there's something that we're missing here. There's something about this case that we don't have yet. Could be another person, could be, I don't know what it is, but I just don't see, when I look at the body language between Candace and Don, them being such a tight couple, that whatever happened, if it was them that did it, if whatever happened to Summer is at their hand, I just don't see them being able to get it by everybody. I just don't see it. They don't seem strong enough as a couple.
And there's also the theory, you know, that she died in an accident, right? And then they covered it up. But why would you do that, right? If it was an accident, then why would you cover it up unless it was some accident that like led back to severe neglect? Then I could see that. But like you said, if the boys are playing with Summer and something happens and, you know, maybe she falls down the stairs or whatever, that ladder from the main house into her basement room, maybe she breaks her neck or something and now they got to cover this up. Why would you do that if it was an accident? So that really kind of goes out the window too. And like I said, in the next episode, we're going to explore the stranger abduction theory, or just the abduction theory in general. There's something called the cornbread mafia that everybody's talking about, and they might be involved, and a bunch of pedophiles that Don claims are living around the area and things like that. So that might have something to do with it, even though the police did talk to all of those people. So I'm not sure how that could be, but we will talk about that and kind of explore that theory next time.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, we appreciate you coming and checking us out again, sticking with us. The channel's been doing great. If you're listening on audio or you're watching on YouTube,
Thank you, Dante. I appreciate that so much. Thank you. Oops.
we truly appreciate the support. If you want to follow us on social media, you can go to Crime Weekly, at Crime Weekly on, I believe it's Twitter, or Crime Weekly Pod on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to support the coffee, like we had said last episode, we have the Fight Crime mission that we're going for here. A portion of the proceeds from every bag is donated directly to organizations or family members currently dedicated to fighting crime. If you want to check that out, you can go to criminalcoffeeco.com. Guys, we appreciate it all. Have a good night. Be safe. We will see you next week.
See you next week. Bye.
Yep. They did. Isn't it that crazy? It was like, what it reminded me of is when, like, I was surprised there was a full basement down there, because it reminded me more of like a cubby hole or like a crawl space, maybe. It didn't, I don't know. It was odd. Let me see if, oh no, that's not. I was going to see if maybe we could get the rest of Candace's video. Let me try it on this browser, because that seemed to be what worked for us.
Goes my head shaking, and you are the reason.
Oh yeah, there was that too, Blondie. The music.
Just to be with you.
Yes. And it was just like Dax, it was just like a mattress on the floor. and that was it. But I will say that Candace and Dawn, their bedroom was right there too. Like there was no separation of her bedroom from their bedroom. So yeah, in a damp like basement, there was like no heat, I'm sure, down there or whatever. I don't know. Basements are just always damp feeling. I've seen a little evidence to that too, Dot.
She's so beautiful and so outspoken and just so wonderful to the whole world.
I always pray that somebody would take me and let Summer go.
Oh, I know.
I sit here and I blame myself. I always have and always will. And I'm like, what if I would have went in the house with her and played with her? What if I would have done this different? What if I've done that different? I always blame myself. I always have and I always will.
A drone or something. It was kind of odd, but she was just running in a field with that Johnson grass. It was a beautiful summer day, and she was just running and laughing like she could just smile on her face like she always does. And it's just like I kind of flew by her and then flew up into the air, and I was looking back, kind of looking down on her a little ways from a distance, like I was like a drone or something. It was kind of odd, but in that sense, but it was beautiful. She got a beautiful smile with hers, running. It makes tears in my eyes.
All right. That was the end of that one. So there is a part 3 to Stephanie and Derek's video. So we'll watch that on Monday. And then, like I said, after that, I think I'm going to do smaller true crime stuff. And then I want to delve into Bryan Kohberger just because I want to be up to date on all of that when his trial starts. Dawn said Summer was down the road. Sorry. I was in thought. So anyways, yeah, so we're going to do Bryan Kohberger after we finish Monday with the Summer Wells thing. Then on Wednesday, we'll start on the Bryan Kohberger stuff just to catch up on that, because that's going to be huge when he goes to trial. He's the one that was responsible for the Idaho 4. Taking a shower with her. Well, and isn't there people that have come forward kind of with the whole jealousy thing in mind? Right, Dot. I feel like when I was, staying on top of it in the beginning and stuff, I feel like there was stuff that came out that kind of pointed, to the jealousy. Not that they did anything to her or whatever, but it did show that, she had an issue with how close she was to Dawn. Which is really, really odd to me. I was just sitting here trying to imagine that, like, being jealous of my daughter's relationship with her dad. Like, I can't even imagine that. Right, Dax. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Thanks for bringing this back to light. People think this is a nationally known case, but it really is only known in this small section of YouTube. You're welcome, Dante. Thank you. I'm so glad you found us this morning. See, that's the thing, Dot, is that there's no... it doesn't seem like they're any closer to any answers now than they were 2 years ago. And that's a scary thing. All right, guys, I'm going to end it here for today. I will see you guys Monday morning at 7:30 Eastern, but I may be on, it just depends on how my daughter's feeling. I may be on this weekend to do the taste test. And then I also have the 2 neck fans that I was going to compare between the Temu and the Amazon ones. Hi, subscriber. Please probably know who did it. Yeah, I don't know. I hope there's some sort of, conclusion in this case. Okay, guys, my daughter, little sick thing, just walked in. So I'm going to end it. I love you guys. I appreciate all of you. And thank you guys all for being here and watching with me. And I will see you all next time. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up on your way out. And if you're new here and you liked what you saw today, hit that subscribe button and click the bell so that you're alerted anytime I have new content up. All right, guys, see you later.